Chapter 2699. Accept the baptism of the infinite poison miasma? We don't have such unique hobbies. The samsara halberd hit the wall, but did not have any effect. However, Knight Sorrow did not panic. He thought for a while and put away the samsara halberd. After activating the Tianxian secret skill to increase his strength, he blasted the hand of splitting heaven and earth toward the wall. With a boom, the enclosed space formed by the sky-shrouding formation shattered like an eggshell. You're the one who split heaven and earth? Seeing Knight Sorrow break the sky-shrouding formation in an instant, Wu Xian, who originally thought that victory was in his grasp, changed his expression immediately. He did not expect Knight Sorrow to wake up so quickly, nor did he expect Knight Sorrow to break the sky-shrouding formation in one move. What does it have to do with you whether I split heaven and earth or not? Wu Xian, as the saying goes, one who is unjust is doomed to destruction. I have been looking forward to challenging you for a long time. Today I will seek justice for Brother Mo Qianxian, Sir God Jinyuan, and the others. Knight Sorrow, who rushed out of the sky-shrouding formation with the clear sky pagoda, and left the infinite poison miasma, floated in the air and stared at Wu Xian. At the same time, the two Divine King, Long Tianqing and Jin Ye, walked out of the clear sky pagoda one after another. On the other side, Wu Xian had a strange smile on his face. Behind him stood about 20 Sir Gods. Among these Sir Gods, 3 were invincible Sir Gods and the rest were ordinary Sir Gods. In comparison, their lineup was not as good as Knight Sorrow's. However, Wu Xian smiled strangely and said, "Today, none of you will be able to leave. So what if you break the sky-shrouding formation? There are surprises waiting for you." After Wu Xian finished speaking, the entire governor's mansion suddenly changed its appearance and turned into the 9 Serenities hell. Countless ferocious ghosts with disheveled hair pounced on Knight Sorrow and the others from all directions. What kind of means is this? Seeing that these ferocious ghosts were basically Sir Gods, Jin Ye, who spat out a mouthful of flames, asked in confusion. It seems to be the 9 Serenities ferocious ghost formation. Wu Xian once said that there are 3 great arrays in the city. This should be the second one. Everyone be careful. The one who answered Jin Ye was the knowledgeable Long Tianqing. After she finished speaking, she took out a kasaya that emitted a red glow from her spatial artifact. After she put it on, she silently chanted the name of Buddha. After Long Tianqing chanted the Buddhist mantra, countless golden swastikas appeared on her kasaya and shot towards the attacking phantoms. These swastikas were extremely large in number, like golden flowers scattered by a heavenly maiden. After shooting out, the first few malicious ghosts were quickly dealt with. However, as soon as the evil ghosts at the front were destroyed, the Divine Lord-level evil ghosts at the back immediately swarmed out. After Long Tianqing's kasaya resisted for a while, the golden light on it gradually dimmed. I'm afraid this won't work. I won't be able to hold on for much longer. We still need to completely break the formation. Sensing that something was amiss, Long Tianqing said solemnly. In fact, she was originally one of the super geniuses of the dragons, but she had been too occupied with the matter of the Divine Lord Jinyuan over the years, and had not put all her energy into cultivation. Although she was the Divine King, her strength was relatively weak. Haha! The 9 Nether Malicious Ghost formation has an endless number of malicious ghosts. Although they are basically all at the Divine Lord level, they have the advantage in numbers. Just wait to be slowly exhausted to death. Seeing Long Tianqing's performance, Wu Xin, who had already left the formation, laughed complacently. Wu Xin, I'm a shameless villain. I, Mo Yuqian, must have been blind to have spent so much resources to nurture you back then. Wu Xin's unbridled manner angered Mo Yuqian, who was in the clear sky pagoda, and he came out to curse loudly. Haha! Mo Yuqian, oh Mo Yuqian. You old fart, you can only blame yourself for being blind if you believe me. After Mo Yuqian walked out of the clear sky pagoda, Wu Xin immediately ridiculed him. Then he said disdainfully, "If you weren't blind, how could you have become like this? Wu Xin, a person like you will definitely end up in an incomparably miserable state." Mo Yuqian was furious, but he was not very good at scolding people. "With that mouth of yours, it's better if you don't talk nonsense with me. If you have time, go deal with a few more malicious ghosts. Could it be that you only know how to fight with your mouth? Wuxin did not give up. Mo Yuqian was so angry that the puppet god trembled, and he did not say anything for a while. At this time, Night Sorrow walked to Mo Yuqian's side and comforted him. Old brother, don't waste your breath on a person who is about to die. 30 years in the east, 30 years in the west. In the future, his soul will be destroyed, and you will become immortal. Old brother Night Sorrow is right. Old brother is too stubborn. Mo Yuqian, who was still angry, calmed down a little. Looking at Wuxin Night Sorrow, he suddenly said, "Thank you for preparing so much power of virtue for me. If the malicious ghosts are really as endless as you say, then I'm afraid that I will become the divine king here." I'm afraid your brain is damaged, right? Don't think that just because you came from the lower realm, you are invincible in the god realm. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Wuxin's mouth revealed a disdainful smile. You don't believe me? Then open your dog eyes wide. Night Sorrow interrupted Long Tianqing and Jin Ye, who were bitterly resisting the endless malicious ghosts. He took out the heavenly samsara halberd, and shot out the inferno demon that contained the power of virtue at the malicious ghosts. The sky was filled with golden power of virtue, and the flames immediately covered the entire formation. The malicious ghosts were not afraid of being burned by the flames, but the power of virtue was different. Burned by the power of virtue, most of the malicious ghosts were instantly converted into power of virtue and flew toward Night Sorrow. Absorbing the power of virtue in front of Wuxin, Night Sorrow smiled and said, "These ghosts, come as many as you can." In fact, Night Sorrow hadn't been idle when the malicious ghosts had first appeared. He'd killed one of them and discovered that he could convert it into merit power. He'd immediately relaxed and felt that the array formation before him wasn't much at all. Bastard! Using the power of virtue to attack, and then killing the malicious ghosts to absorb the power of virtue. The 9 Serenities malicious ghost formation does not work on him. Wuxin, who was standing outside the formation, saw Night Sorrow's performance and was so angry that his body trembled. He snorted and ordered, "We can't just watch his strength grow infinitely. Close the 9 Serenities malicious ghost formation, and activate the confinement space formation. Trap them all inside." "Yes, Lord Divine King." After Wuxin gave the order, the 3 invincible Sir Gods behind him immediately obeyed, and activated the confinement space formation that had been set up long ago. The 9 Serenities malicious ghost formation was closed, and the confinement space formation was activated. The scene before Night Sorrow and the others immediately changed. Chapter 2700. What array formation is this again? Seeing the fierce ghosts all disappear, and the entire space become silent, deathly silent, Night Sorrow opened his mouth to ask. Long Tianqing glanced at Night Sorrow, brows furrowed slightly, and said, "The array formation in front of us. I can't make out its name either, but it's definitely not simple." As the finale array formation, "It's definitely not simple," Night Sorrow replied, then opened up the sea serpent's eye and carefully observed the array formation in front of them. He was clear that among everyone present, apart from himself and Long Tianqing, the others should not have studied king rank array formations. Carefully observing for a while, Night Sorrow's expression suddenly became solemn and he said, "Not good. This area that we're in is shrinking nonstop. If my guess is right, it will crush everything in the array formation in the end." And, let me see. Jin Ye, who originally did not have any thoughts, immediately observed seriously when he heard Night Sorrow's words. After looking for a while, he said with a deep look, "Indeed so. Although the space in front of us looks very big, enough to accommodate millions of people, looking at the current speed, we won't need a year and will completely have no space to live." Although with their strength, as long as there was a bit of space, they could survive, this array formation was clearly able to completely compress space. "Let's split up and take action, see if we can find a way to crack the array formation." Roughly figuring out this array formation's knack, Long Tianqing looked at Night Sorrow and Jin Ye. At the current rate of shrinking, they would completely lose the space to live after a year. But nobody could be sure whether the shrinking speed of space would have a change or not. Hence, the time left for them was not much. Okay. Let me take a look. I can see through the loopholes of this array formation. Night Sorrow responded and transmitted his voice to everyone in the vast heaven pagoda. The situation right now is somewhat dangerous. But everyone, don't worry, I'll think of a way to resolve it. Just as he was about to have his own territory in the divine realm and thoroughly settle down, such a crisis appeared in front of him again. He felt very sorry for his family. Husband, we believe in you. Don't overthink it. Sikong Chiyu immediately responded gently. She knew what Night Sorrow was thinking. Then Yang Lei said, 13 Don't worry. If you can't find a way, take out your ruler artifact and destroy the space in front of you. You don't say this method might really work. Hearing Yang Lei's words, Night Sorrow smiled and nodded. If he couldn't find a way, breaking the formation by force was indeed the only choice. Don't worry about us, everyone believes in you. Seeing that Night Sorrow was still thinking about his family in such a dangerous situation, Jing Yun, who had just blended in with him, responded with a smile. Originally, she had lost her entire family and felt very lonely. Now that she had completely integrated into the Night Moon family and found a sense of belonging, she felt that facing difficulties with everyone was much better than living alone. Without any suspense, other than the two of them, the other members of the Yi family all spoke up. They did not mind the difficulties in front of them. Furthermore, they had unlimited trust in Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow smiled when he saw everyone in his family act this way. Then he looked for a way to break the formation with Long Tianqing and Jin Ye. After using the Sea Serpent's Eye to observe the formation thoroughly, Night Sorrow did not find any clues. Thus he looked at Long Tianqing and asked, Senior Tianqing, did you find anything? I did find something, but it's not good news. Long Tianqing looked at Night Sorrow and sighed. I found that this formation should be broken from the outside. This is also the ingenuity of this formation. That's right. If the person who created this formation had left a way to break it, this formation would not have qualified to be a king-level formation. Furthermore, it was used as the final formation by Wuxin. Jin Ye nodded with a deep gaze. At this moment he was rather depressed. After leaving the ancient Golden Crow realm, he realized that he had not been able to protect Night Sorrow at all. Fortunately, their relationship had become much closer, and he had completed the task that Kim Hong had given him. It seems that Ninth Senior Sister's prophecy has come true. We really can break the formation. Unable to find a way, Night Sorrow voiced his opinion. If there's no other way, we can only use brute force. Long Tianqing agreed. Then she continued, however, a king-level formation is known for its suppression. It will definitely be very difficult to break it. With our strength, we might not be able to do it. Whether it's feasible or not, we have to try. It's better than waiting for death. Let me try first. Jin Ye was an impatient person. As soon as he finished speaking, he took out his copper cauldron and released flames that blasted at the wall in front of him. Ha ha. You guys really want to die too slowly. You still want to add fuel to the fire. Seeing Jin Ye attack the wall with flames, Wuxin, who was drinking tea and watching from outside, put down his teacup and laughed wantonly. As soon as he finished speaking, the wall, which hadn't been damaged by Jin Ye's attack, suddenly shrank by a few dozen meters. After the wall shrank, the originally spacious space suddenly became extremely oppressive, making it difficult for everyone to breathe. So attacking the formation's wall will cause a backlash. I was too impatient. I've let everyone down. Jin Ye, who had just attacked the wall, saw the wall shrink, and his expression changed greatly as he apologized. It's okay. If you didn't attack, we would have. It's all the same. Night Sorrow hurriedly comforted him. Although the wall shrank by a few dozen meters and everyone was in a bad mood, this wasn't Jin Ye's fault. No, it's my fault. Jin Ye sighed and said, I was too impatient and didn't think about the consequences. At that time, Night Sorrow should have used his Dominator-level divine artifact and used the strongest attack we could release. That way, even if the wall shrank, it would prove that it was impossible to break the formation with brute force. It wouldn't be like this. That's the logic, but it's already happened. There's no use in regretting it. Right now, we need to think of the most feasible solution. Being trapped in this confined space made him feel very anxious. However, Night Sorrow still maintained his calm at this moment, and prepared to discuss the most feasible solution with everyone. I think Jin Ye is right. Our only hope should be the Dominator-level divine artifact in your hands. Long Tianqing looked at Night Sorrow, and then looked at the wall that was slowly shrinking. She said, however, our safest choice is to let you cultivate for a period of time, and strive to become a monarch god. I feel that you won't be able to open a way out with just the strength of a high god. Senior Tianqing's words are reasonable. However, there's another way. That is for you or Jin Ye to use Tianyun Bao, and see if you can unleash an even stronger attack. Chapter 2701. According to Night Sorrow's judgment, Long Tianqing and Jin Ye, as the Divine King, were definitely stronger than him. If they could use the Tianyun Bao, they might be able to achieve unexpected results. This won't do. I can't accept the sovereign-grade artifact. Jin Ye was very moved by Night Sorrow's words. He didn't think that Night Sorrow would trust him so much. However, he immediately refused. He was too embarrassed to accept it. Long Tianqing was the same. She said seriously, Night Sorrow, the sovereign-grade artifact is very precious. You can't give it to anyone else at any time, because that might be handing over your life. Hee, aren't we handing our lives to each other right now? Right now, we're all bound together for good or ill. Yi Shang smiled and continued. At a time like this, no matter what, we can't just stand by and wait for death. If there's a way, we have to try it. You two don't have to be so polite. Jin Ye felt his body tremble. He said, Brother Night Sorrow, I, Jin Ye, will recognize you as a friend from now on. I'll treat you no differently than any other Golden Crow race member. Hee. A friend in need is a friend indeed. I, Night Sorrow, also recognize Brother Jin Ye as a good friend. Yi Shan smiled as he extended his fist and bumped it with Jin Ye's. Outside the formation, Wuxin sneered when he saw Night Sorrow and Jin Ye. Ha ha ha. You two are really interesting. How about this? You two become sworn brothers of different surnames. This way, you don't have to ask to be born in the same year, month and day, but you can ask to die in the same year, month and day. No, this kind of person doesn't understand feelings. I, Jin Ye, am willing to fight together with a heroic person like Brother Night Sorrow, even if I die in battle. Being disdained by Wuxin, a trace of anger appeared between Jin Ye's brows. He said coldly, Brother Night Sorrow, give me the bow. Okay, take the bow. Night Sorrow didn't hesitate and handed the Tianyun Bao over. Long Tianqing wanted to stop him, but she swallowed her words. She felt that there was no need to suspect that Jin Ye was up to no good under such circumstances. Tianyun Bao. Good Bao. Who would have thought that I, Jin Ye, would one day have the chance to use a sovereign artifact? Holding the Tianyun Bao in his hand, Jin Ye felt a sense of heroism rise in his chest. He immediately prepared to shoot at the wall. He had witnessed the scene of Night Sorrow shooting the sun with his bow, so he knew that Tianyun Bao could use it even without an arrow. At this moment, Night Sorrow handed over a Heaven Cloud arrow and said, Since you've used a sovereign-grade god artifact, use your strongest attack. After Jin Ye received the Sky Cloud arrow, Night Sorrow sent a telepathic message to Jin Ye. Infuse Tianyun Bao with your blood. You'll be able to activate it better. Blood infusion? You won't let it recognize you as its master, right? Jin Ye, who was holding the Tianyun Bao, looked at Night Sorrow and asked. Hee, that won't happen. Infusing your blood will only make Tianyun Bao stronger. It's not enough to make it recognize you as its master. I think that it won't recognize you as its master unless you have the strength of a sovereign-grade god artifact. Night Sorrow told Jin Ye about infusing Tianyun Bao with his blood and told him that it wasn't a problem that he was worried about. Alright. I understand. After hearing Night Sorrow's words, Jin Ye immediately cut his wrist and infused Tianyun Bao with his blood. In the process of absorbing the blood, the Heaven Cloud Bao gradually grew flesh and blood from the shape of a bone bao. Seeing flesh and blood appear on Tianyun Bao's body, Jin Ye immediately became excited and said, The effect is very obvious. It's not that obvious. When I infused my blood, The aura of the flesh and blood was stronger than it is now. Night Sorrow discovered that after Jin Ye infused his blood, Tianyun Bao's flesh and blood had the aura of a tiger and leopard. It didn't have dragon blood or dragon scales. After explaining, he said, "Brother Jin Ye, stop. I'll infuse my blood while you draw the bow." "Alright. Brother Night Sorrow's talent is definitely better than mine. You do it." Every sovereign grade god artifact was very mysterious. Jin Ye had heard of them before. He immediately stopped and gave the opportunity to Night Sorrow. After Night Sorrow cut his finger, he immediately infused Tianyun Bao with his blood. After Night Sorrow's blood infused Tianyun Bao's flesh and blood, it immediately became even stronger. Finally, a layer of dragon reverse scales grew on Tianyun Bao's surface that was even stronger than normal dragon scales. The effect is very good. Brother Jin Ye, you can try attacking the wall. Seeing Tianyun Bao's changes, Night Sorrow confirmed with satisfaction. Good. Watch me draw the bow and shoot. Upon hearing Night Sorrow's words, Jin Ye immediately swallowed a pill that could temporarily increase his strength. He also used a secret technique to raise his condition to its peak. Then he knocked the Heaven Cloud arrow on Tianyun Bao and pulled the bowstring. "Lord Divine King, the other party has a sovereign grade god artifact. The array won't be pierced through, right?" After Jin Ye used the sovereign grade god artifact to shoot the arrow, an invincible divine lord behind Wuxin immediately asked worriedly. "It shouldn't be." Wuxin replied uncertainly. Then he confidently said, "But even if they can charge out of the array, it doesn't matter. This divine king has even more terrifying trump cards waiting for them." "Yes. Lord Divine King, your plans are flawless. We are in awe." One of the divine lords immediately flattered. "I can't say that my plans are flawless, but there shouldn't be any suspense when dealing with them. After all, the divine world doesn't just rely on wits. It also relies on true strength." Wuxin smiled. Although Night Sorrow had a sovereign grade god artifact and 2 divine kings, he didn't care at all. Clearly, he still had a trump card. While Wuxin and the others were talking, Jin Ye had already done his best to draw the bow and shot the Heaven Cloud arrow. The instant the Heaven Cloud arrow shot out, a violent explosion sounded in the void. As expected of a sovereign grade god artifact, its power is indeed shocking. Long Tianqing, who watched the Heaven Cloud arrow shoot into the wall, couldn't help but praise it. She secretly thought that if this kind of attack couldn't break through, then they probably wouldn't have a chance to break out of the array. Jin Ye, who was originally very excited, suddenly suffered a strong backlash and fell to the ground. However, his eyes were fixed on the Heaven Cloud arrow that was shot out. In fact, he wasn't the only one. Night Sorrow and everyone in the Clear Sky Pagoda all locked their gazes on the Tianyun Bao that flew out. Everyone was hoping for a good outcome. After all, if nothing unexpected happened, this was their only chance. Boom. At this moment, under everyone's expectant gazes, the Heaven Cloud arrow suddenly bombarded the wall of the array. In the blink of an eye, the area where the wall had been struck exploded, and an endless amount of light blossomed from it. This light was even more intense than the golden crow illuminating the world. It made it impossible for people to see the situation clearly. Chapter 2702. Night Sorrow, what's going on? Did you manage to break it? Long Tianqing, who couldn't see what was going on due to the golden light, immediately asked worriedly when she saw Night Sorrow take a deep breath. "I'm afraid we're in big trouble this time," Night Sorrow said solemnly. After opening the clam dragon's eye, he saw that the Heavenly Cloud arrow was embedded in the wall after hitting it, like a fishbone stuck in the throat. The toughness and strength of this formation's wall was unbelievable. Big trouble? Does this mean that even the sovereign grade divine artifact couldn't break the barrier in front of us? Long Tianqing's heart sank when she heard Night Sorrow's words, and she asked worriedly. "That's right. The Heavenly Cloud arrow couldn't break the barrier in front of us." Yishan explained, "If I'm not wrong, the wall will shrink even further this time, and the space left for us will definitely be even smaller." Sigh. How can this be? How can this be? Jin Ye, who had just shot the Heavenly Cloud arrow, had a look of disbelief. When he pulled the Tianyun Bao apart, He truly felt the pleasure of controlling everything. He didn't expect that he wouldn't succeed in breaking the formation. There's no point in sighing now. We should continue to think of a way. Time must be tight now, and we can't waste any time. Although they were in a difficult situation, Night Sorrow's eyes didn't show any despair. Yes. Night Sorrow is right. We must pull ourselves together. Let's think of a way together. As Long Tianqing said this, the wall in front of them rapidly shrank. After about 10 breaths, the wall had completely shrunk. This time, it shrank by 100 meters. After shrinking by more than 100 meters, the entire space had shrunk by about 1/5. Ha ha. A bunch of fools who overestimate their abilities. You must be tired of living. Seeing the wall shrink again, Wu Xian, who was sipping tea, immediately laughed wantonly. Do you think you can do whatever you want with a sovereign-grade divine artifact? You must be dreaming. Let's see how you're going to die. Wu Xian, don't be complacent. We'll find a way to get out. Everyone else was somewhat discouraged. Only Night Sorrow calmly replied to Wu Xian. Ha! Yishang, are you still deceiving yourself at this point? Even Jin Ye's Dominator rank artifact couldn't do it. Do you really think that you, a high god, can really turn the tide? Stop dreaming. Today, all of you will die. Wu Xian's malicious laughter sounded extremely ear-piercing in the enclosed space. Don't worry, everyone. I will definitely help everyone overcome this crisis. After being provoked by Wu Xian, the anger in Night Sorrow's heart completely flared up, and he comforted everyone. When Night Sorrow said this, he used some of the green rock soul-rending roar technique, and mixed in some of the power of merit, causing everyone present to be enveloped by the power of merit and calm down. You're really good at appeasing people. However, the only thing that awaits you is death. Tianyun Bao will become Wuxin's personal artifact. After seeing Night Sorrow's methods, Wu Xian, who was outside the array, indifferently provoked him. In his opinion, no matter what, Night Sorrow and the others wouldn't be able to escape the array in front of them. The Dominator rank artifact Tianyun Bao would definitely become his. Based on your character, Wu Xian, you're not worthy of a Dominator rank artifact. You'd better wait patiently for me to kill you when I get out. Night Sorrow didn't have the slightest bit of goodwill toward Wu Xian. After coldly replying, he no longer paid attention to the chattering Wu Xian. After all, they didn't have much time left. There was no room to waste. Sai, what should we do? Yin Tianyi, who was inside the clear sky pagoda, couldn't help but sigh when he saw the situation in front of him. Then he asked the Divine King in his body, Divine Ancestor, what do you think we should do to overcome this crisis? Method? There should only be one method, and that is to rely on Night Sorrow. In my opinion, if we want to break the array in front of us, not only do we need strength, but we also need luck. Among everyone present, only Night Sorrow has this luck. This world can't trap him. After Yin Tianyi asked this question, the Divine Ancestor's answer immediately appeared in his mind. He immediately transmitted his voice to Night Sorrow. Brother Yi, the Divine Ancestor said that the only way now is to rely on your strength and luck. Why don't you give it a try? That's the only way. However, I'm only a high god now. When I use Tianyun Bao, the power is much weaker than when I use Divine King Jin Ye. After Night Sorrow replied to Yin Tianyi, he paused for a moment and looked at everyone. Don't despair, everyone. In the next 6 months, I will work hard to cultivate and think of a way to break through to the Monarch God rank. Then I will try to break the array. If you have any elixirs that can help a high god break through to the Monarch God rank quickly, please don't be stingy. When he said this, Night Sorrow thought of the Rainbow Profound Spirit Elixir. This elixir was originally used by the Divine King to break through to the next level. He had taken 6 of them, but he had only broken through to the next level at the high god rank. This was hard to understand, but it also made him even more certain that if he took other ordinary elixirs, the effect would be worse. Therefore, he didn't have much hope for what he had just said. After thinking for a moment, he added, Everyone, don't study elixirs below the Monarch God rank. They should be useless. Let me check the spatial artifact. Long Tianqing was the first to respond. She went into the spatial artifact to look for elixirs that were beneficial for cultivation. Jinya also started looking. He had just used the sovereign divine artifact Tianyun Bao, but he hadn't hit the erase barrier. This made him feel very uncomfortable. After searching for a while, he took out 3 dark red Bodhi seeds from the spatial artifact and said, "These are 3 king-level Bodhi seeds. They are very useful for cultivation. Back then, I used them to break through the Divine King's barrier. Brother Night Sorrow, take them." "Good stuff. These Bodhi seeds will be very useful," Night Sorrow praised. He took the 3 Bodhi seeds and said, "Brother Jinya, this is an emergency. I won't stand on ceremony with you." "Brother Night Sorrow, don't stand on ceremony. Quickly enter the spatial artifact to cultivate." After confirming that the 3 Bodhi seeds were useful, Jinya was very happy. He felt that he had been a hindrance and had let everyone down. He felt very guilty. Seeing what Jinya was thinking, Night Sorrow took the Bodhi seeds and comforted him. "Brother Jinya, don't think too much. The array in front of us isn't easy to deal with. Even if it were someone else, the result would be the same. Don't blame yourself. The more you blame yourself, the happier that bitch outside the array will be." Yes, Brother Yishang's words make sense. From now on, I, Jinya, will not have any negative emotions. Chapter 2703. Aha! Jinya, you are also a divine king. Why are you behaving like a child in front of a high god? With your personality, this divine king can deal with 10 of you. Seeing Jinya's performance, Wu Xian, who was outside the array, mocked him disdainfully. This was not only because he was bored waiting outside, but also because he wanted to disturb the morale of Night Sorrow's camp. When he spoke, he used some sound wave attacks to disturb the mind. "Bastard! What did you say? If you have the guts, fight me to the death." Hearing Wu Xian's words, Jinya, who had calmed down, immediately became irritable. At this moment, Night Sorrow immediately used his power of virtue to envelop him. "Don't mind Wu Xian. He is very evil. Just now, my state of mind seemed to have been affected." After being enveloped by Night Sorrow's power of virtue, Jinya, who quickly recovered, broke out in cold sweat. They were both divine king, but Wu Xian's simple words caused him to fall into a frenzy. This was not simple. Wu Xian's sound wave attack just now contained a trace of the power of darkness. If I'm not wrong, he is very likely related to evil creatures. Night Sorrow judged and said to everyone, "When I am in seclusion, all of you enter the clear sky pagoda. Don't give Wu Xian any chance." "Okay. We will remember," Long Tianqing said solemnly. She took out 5 drops of emerald green liquid that contained violent energy from her spatial artifact. She explained, "Night Sorrow, these 5 drops of liquid were left behind by my grandfather. They are called God Origin Liquid. Not only do they contain the Divine King's laws, they also contain a trace of the Sovereign's laws. When you cultivate, absorb them. Not only can you strengthen your body, but you can also use the Divine King's techniques at the Divine Monarch level. Absorbing the Sovereign's laws will allow you to better comprehend Tianyun Bao. Senior Dragon Ancestor left this for you. It is too precious. I cannot use it." The reason Night Sorrow had immediately taken Jinya's Bodhi seed was because the Bodhi seed could not be used up after it was used. As for the Divine Origin liquid that Long Tianqing took out, it needed to be completely absorbed for it to be effective. Considering how precious it was, Night Sorrow refused. "Night Sorrow, those who do great things don't care about trifles. Look at the situation now, and you're still thinking about the importance of the item. Under such circumstances, isn't everyone's life more important?" Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Long Tianqing said in a serious tone. Then Jinya also tried to persuade him. "Brother Night Sorrow, you are our only hope for survival. Stop procrastinating." "Good. Then I won't hold back. But I don't think I'll use it all." After Night Sorrow muttered to himself for a while, he received the 5 drops of Divine Origin liquid and entered the clear sky pagoda. Because the time left in the outside world was definitely less than a year, it was impossible for him to break through to the Divine Lord realm in all aspects within a year. Only by cultivating in a spatial artifact would he have a chance. Lord Night Sorrow, this is the Divine King's source that the Patriarch asked me to pass to you. You must accept it. Night Sorrow had just entered the Clear Sky Pagoda when the Horn Clan's Jiao Hui handed a spatial artifact to Night Sorrow and opened his mouth to describe. The Horn Clan's Patriarch, Jiao Hui, did not appear. Good. I won't say much, but as long as I, Night Sorrow, am around, the Horn Clan will live very well. Night Sorrow received the spatial artifact that Jiao Hui handed over and said a sentence. He was preparing to open up a space suitable for his own cultivation inside the Clear Sky Pagoda. But he did not expect that at this time. A divine lord in Xiao Tianxuan's clan also walked out and handed over a brocade pouch and said, "Inside are resources left behind by the sovereign. It's said to be used in times of crisis. I'm not sure what's inside. Lord Night Sorrow, check it out yourself. Since it's something left behind by the sect master, I won't stand on ceremony." Since he accepted everyone's things, Night Sorrow did not reject the Xiao clan's divine lord's gift alone. Receiving the brocade pouch, Night Sorrow walked in front of his family and opened his mouth to say, "Time is of the essence. I'll enter seclusion until death. I won't come out of seclusion until I break through to Divine Lord. Everyone take care. Don't be frightened by the predicament in front of you. When I come out of seclusion, everything will be solved with ease." Because time was of the essence, he did not prepare to speak much with the various wives. But after the elders and most of the wives finished giving instructions, Lin Piaomiao opened her mouth and said, "Husband, my current bloodline is very special. Before you take action, I'll inject my blood into Tianyun Bao. At that time, it will definitely have pretty good effects." "Good. But this needs to wait until I break through first." His wife's words gave Night Sorrow a further idea. But currently, the difficult problem in front of him was how to successfully advance to Divine Lord in a short time. He did not have time to think about other problems carefully. "Good. Then I wish husband can quickly break through to Divine Lord." Lin Piaomiao looked at Night Sorrow and smiled. At this time, Jing Yun transmitted her voice to Night Sorrow, talking about some insights on breaking through to Divine Lord. She broke through to Divine Lord recently. The relevant experience was still very important. Everyone taking care of each other like this, Night Sorrow will definitely break through to Divine Lord as soon as possible and shatter the barrier. After Night Sorrow finished communicating with Jing Yun, he gave everyone a final glance, then walked into the seclusion room and started cultivating. "Oh, breaking through to Divine Lord just like that. Do you think that cultivation is child's play?" Just now, Night Sorrow did not hide the matter of cultivating to Divine Lord and shattering the barrier outside from Unheartless. Although not clear what happened to Night Sorrow in the vast Heaven Pagoda, Unheartless still said a sentence to his subordinates disdainfully. It naturally got his subordinates to pander. But the Night Sorrow in the middle of cultivating clearly did not think so. After obtaining many resources, he entered seclusion in the vast Heaven Pagoda's space. He took the lead to absorb the divine origin liquid provided by Long Tianqing. Although these 5 drops of divine origin liquid looked to be only the size of water droplets, absorbing them still consumed a lot of time. Every drop would take about 5 years to refine. But after thoroughly absorbing them, Night Sorrow's physical strength thoroughly broke through to the Divine Lord realm like the power of virtue and divine soul strength. After his physical strength increased, the only problem placed in front of Night Sorrow was cultivation. To Night Sorrow, the advancement of cultivation was the most difficult, because it could not be taken lightly. But what he walked was the path of validating his Tao through virtue. Relatively speaking, the difficulty of breaking through was not considered great. Especially with the 3 Bodhi seeds around, his epiphany speed was not considered slow. It was just that the average person needed thousands to tens of thousands of years to break through to Divine Lord, even 1 or 2 reincarnations time. In such a pressing time, it was still difficult for Night Sorrow to want to break through. How is it? Not out yet. After Night Sorrow entered seclusion for 70 years, Jin Ye, who entered the vast Heaven Pagoda from the outside world, asked anxiously. Chapter 2704. Half a month, even with the 100-fold augmentation, it was merely around 4 years. For years' time, to ordinary people was not short. But to Divine World's cultivators, it was simply a matter of an instant. Hearing Jin Ye's question, Night Sorrow's wife, Sikong Chuyu, replied, "Not out yet, but I feel that husband should succeed. He has never disappointed anyone in his life." Sigh. Let's hope so. If it really doesn't work, at most, everyone will die here together. It's not a big deal. Anyway, to cultivators, life and death are nothing. Jin Ye sighed, left the vast heaven pagoda, and observed the moving walls again. At this time he shouted in surprise, "The moving speed has increased. 1 year. There's only 1 year's time in the vast heaven pagoda at most. We will be completely crushed." Tianyun Bao, did you bring Night Sorrow in? Long Tianqing, who did not wish for everyone to wait for death in despair, opened her mouth to ask. She thought of an idea. That was, everyone could enter Tianyun Bao through communication. After all, Tianyun Bao was a sovereign-grade divine artifact. Regardless of material or strength, it was not what a king-grade array formation could crush. After Long Tianqing opened her mouth, Lin Piamiao replied, "Senior Tianqing, Tianyun Bao is with me." "What do you mean?" "What I mean is, try to communicate with Tianyun Bao, and see if there's a space that can accommodate everyone inside. As long as we can hide in Tianyun Bao, the predicament in front of us can be easily resolved." Long Tianqing cut the long story short. "That's a good idea. But I feel that since husband didn't mention it, it shouldn't be feasible." Lin Piamiao sighed and said, "No matter what, everyone has no other ideas now anyway. Rather than waiting for death, why not give it a try? I'll try first." After she finished speaking, she immediately tried to communicate with Tianyun Bao, but discovered that there was no response at all. Subsequently, Long Tianqing, Jin Ye, and the rest also began to try one after another. But the results were still disappointing. In the end, even Xiao Tianchuan's clansmen tried to communicate with Tianyun Bao, but they didn't get any response. Everyone finally decided that they only had one hope, and that was Night Sorrow. As for Night Sorrow, he only needed a tiny bit of epiphany to completely break through to the Divine Lord realm. But he always felt that he was lacking something, so he never took that final step. With no other choice, Night Sorrow took out the package left behind by Xiao Tianxian, and found only a note inside. There were 4 words written on it. "Believe in yourself." Believe in myself? Looking at the pouch, Night Sorrow was speechless at first, but after thinking about it, he completely understood. In the vast heaven pagoda's cultivation, he somewhat relied on everyone's help too much. The effort he put in was indeed not enough. In an instant, Night Sorrow calmed himself down and immersed himself in the epiphany. While Night Sorrow was cultivating, Jin Ye discovered that the speed at which the barrier was shrinking was actually getting faster and faster. The moment he finished talking about this situation, the atmosphere inside the vast heaven pagoda immediately became solemn. A shadow welled up in everyone's hearts. Could it be that everyone is really going to die here? When the barrier shrank until one person could not stand, Jin Ye, who was the last to stay outside, was also forced into the vast heaven pagoda. Seeing Jin Ye's figure appear, Yin Tianyi involuntarily sighed. Although she believed in Night Sorrow, according to the time inside the vast heaven pagoda, there was still less than 100 days' time at the very most before the space would thoroughly crush the vast heaven pagoda. At that time, probably only the sovereign divine artifact, Tianyun Bao, could remain inside the vast heaven pagoda. Don't say discouraging words. As long as there's still time, there's hope. Jin Ye and Yin Tianyi were both more pessimistic. Long Tianqing opened her mouth to berate. She did not want the atmosphere to be too solemn. She was afraid that this would affect the Night Sorrow in the middle of cultivation. Hearing Long Tianqing's words, everyone's faces more or less relaxed a little. But some people's smiles were uglier than crying. Although everyone was a cultivator, there were actually not many who could truly be indifferent to life and death. Jin Yin was considered to be one of the more resolute ones. But her face also revealed a trace of longing for this world. Because after she got married, she did not have much contact with Night Sorrow. Thinking of this, she muttered somewhat unwillingly, "If only I could have met my husband earlier. That way, I could still have left behind his bloodline." Fortunately, There are 3 young masters of our Night Moon dynasty who are training outside. Even if we unfortunately fall today, there will be a day when we rely on their talents to successfully take revenge. Datura sighed and was slightly glad. After all, her son, Yi Xiaoluo, was currently training outside. What are you all talking about? Nothing will happen. Definitely nothing will happen. Believe in my husband, he will successfully complete the breakthrough. Even if he can't break through to Divine Lord, he will also appear and lead us to face the crisis. Seeing them so sorrowful, Sikong Chiyu immediately opened his mouth to persuade them. Her expression was not too good. It was not because she was facing a crisis, but because there were people in the family who did not believe in night sorrow. Hearing this, Datura explained, "It's not that I don't believe in my husband, but the predicament in front of us is really difficult to solve. No matter how difficult the predicament is, it can't stump my husband." Sikong Chiyu said one last sentence and did not speak anymore. She walked to where Night Sorrow was in seclusion and waited without saying a word. And at this time, outside the array was shrinking faster and faster. It had already shrunk to the extent that it could not be seen with the naked eye and started to crush the vast heaven pagoda. Wuxin shouted loudly, "Sovereign artifact Tianyun Bao, I'm going to have you. Don't worry, I will bring you to stand at the highest point of the divine realm. You are completely a pearl covered in dust in Night Sorrow's hands." "Wuxin, you beast, don't be so proud. Night Sorrow will come out to take care of you very soon." The vast heaven pagoda had already started to be crushed. Little Kong was somewhat unable to hold on. The space was already starting to become unstable. Wuxin was shouting at this time. Yin Tianyi could not help but open her mouth to scold. "Ha ha ha. Scold all you want. This divine king will become the #1 divine king of the divine realm very soon. I won't get angry with an ant like you who is about to die." Wuxin, who completely occupied the upper hand, continued after responding to Yin Tianyi, "I'm very curious. Will you guys become meat patties or be crushed into meat powder? What will it be like if your divine soul is crushed?" "Bastard." Seeing Wuxin being so proud outside, Yin Tianyi was rather unhappy, but they were in a crisis. She simply did not have the words to retort. "Haha. Not talking anymore? Hurry up and say something. Hurry up and scold. If you don't speak, you won't have the chance to speak in the future." Wuxin provoked proudly. Everyone in the vast heaven pagoda was unbearably angry. But at this moment, saying anything was futile. Not a single person spoke. Chapter 2705. The voice came from Night Sorrow. He walked out of the training room slowly and his aura was obviously different. Without a doubt, he had broken through to Monarch God in all aspects. It was just that his cultivation had broken through in an instant, and he had yet to face the God-destroying tribulation. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Wu Xian laughed coldly. "Do you really think you're the savior of the world? Let me tell you, in front of me, Wu Xian, you're just a dog being toyed with. You won't be able to survive today. Let's wait and see." The elemental energy around him was released uncontrollably. Night Sorrow looked like an immortal. "Husband, you didn't disappoint us." At this moment, seeing Night Sorrow appear, Lin Piaomiao, who had been guarding Tianyun Bao, handed him over. Seeing Tianyun Bao, Night Sorrow was stunned. He realized that after using his blood to nourish Tianyun Bao, he would grow the reverse scale of a dragon. But now he was covered in thick phoenix flames. He immediately looked at Lin Piaomiao and asked, "Sister Xian, are you okay?" "I'm fine. I just injected some blood into it. I was in despair just now, so I injected more blood." The heaven cloud Bao changed from a state of flesh and blood to its current state. Lin Piaomiao explained. She felt that everyone was going to die just now, so she didn't hold back on her blood. She kept injecting blood into Tianyun Bao, allowing him to enter a new state. "How do you feel? Do you feel uncomfortable? Take these elixirs." Night Sorrow looked at Lin Piaomiao with concern. He was very worried about her safety. For people with special bloodlines, if they used too much blood in one go, it would bring about terrifying consequences. "The amount of blood I used wasn't much. I don't feel uncomfortable at all." Seeing Night Sorrow's worried face, Lin Piaomiao smiled and explained. Actually, she wasn't lying. Although she kept injecting blood into Tianyun Bao, she did it drop by drop. It was just that she did it for a long time. Alright. Then I'll try Tianyun Bao's fourth form, Knight Sorrow said with a nod. Now that he had advanced to a god lord, his horizons had been broadened. He deduced that Tianyun Bao's sovereign artifact had a very special setting. Only by activating the corresponding form would it erupt with the corresponding power. All this time, he hadn't activated Tianyun Bao's true dominator mode, which was why he had been able to use it without suffering too much of a backlash. Of course, the fact that he didn't suffer any backlash also had something to do with Xiao Tianxian, Tianyun Bao's true master. No matter what you try, you will die. Wu Xin, who was outside the formation, smiled proudly when he saw the barrier formed by the formation crushing the vast sky pagoda bit by bit. Let's wait and see. The current situation was indeed not easy to deal with. However, Knight Sorrow didn't reveal a trace of weakness between his brows. He ordered Little Kong, continue to shrink. It'll be fine as long as it can accommodate everyone. Under his order, the vast sky pagoda, which didn't dare to shrink casually, began to shrink rapidly. When the vast sky pagoda shrank to a certain extent, Knight Sorrow casually set up an array outside the vast sky pagoda that wasn't restricted by space and then entered it. Knight Sorrow had just walked out of the vast sky pagoda and entered this space. Before he could make a move, his energy reincarnation arrived directly. Knight Sorrow, who had the sovereign artifact Tianyun Bao in his hand, didn't shoot an arrow when fighting against the energy reincarnation. Instead, he relied on Tianyun Bao's toughness to ruthlessly slap the energy reincarnation to death. After relying on Tianyun Bao successfully transcending the tribulation, Knight Sorrow poured 5 drops of blood into the Bao. Then he activated the Treastrimsa Heaven's combat mystic art that was upgraded during cultivation. Combining it with Xiao Tianshuan's heavenly mystic art, Knight Sorrow already upgraded the Treastrimsa Heaven's mystic art. After casting, it could increase his strength by 15 times. Break for me. Knight Sorrow, who thoroughly advanced to the Divine Lord realm and became a low-ranked Divine Lord, shouted loudly after. He took out 3 heavenly cloud arrows and shot them towards the first point in succession. Rumble. When the first arrow was shot, the heavenly cloud arrow only sunk into the wall. You brood for so long, and the arrow you shot is only SSO. Seeing that the effect of Knight Sorrow's first arrow was about the same as Jin Ye's, Wu Xin immediately opened his mouth and said disdainfully, "Break." At this time, the second arrow suddenly arrived. After the second arrow hit, the first arrow was immediately pushed in. The second arrow occupied the position of the first arrow. The effect is still okay. Knight Sorrow was still quite satisfied with the effect of the 2 arrows hitting the target. He knocked an arrow and shot the third arrow. Rumble. The third arrow hit the same position as the first and second arrows and pushed the second arrow in. However, the spatial barrier was not completely broken. Seeing this scene, Wu Xin laughed loudly and said, "Ha ha ha. You racked your brains to obtain cultivation resources from others to cultivate to the Divine Lord realm. What's the use? Isn't it still the same? You can't break the array's defense. You don't have to worry about that." Knight Sorrow responded with cold words. He took out 3 heavenly cloud arrows again and shot them out one after another. The location where the arrows hit was still the same as before. Under the pressure of the heavenly cloud arrows behind, the heavenly cloud arrows in front completely sunk into the wall. 5 heavenly cloud arrows in a row still haven't broken through the defense. How thick is the array's defense array? After shooting 6 heavenly cloud arrows, Knight Sorrow discovered that the array's defense still hadn't completely broken through. He immediately opened the Sea Serpent's Eye to observe. He had absorbed a large amount of resources to increase his strength. At this moment, the Sea Serpent's Eye had also improved a lot. He looked at the location where the heavenly cloud arrows had entered and discovered that it was still not far from breaking through the array. Therefore, he immediately took out the last 3 heavenly cloud arrows and prepared to shoot at the same position again. Seeing Knight Sorrow continue to shoot arrows, Wu Xin, who wanted to disturb his state, sneered and used a sound wave attack. In the blink of an eye, Yi Shang felt his ears ring when this sound wave hit the already small enclosed space. Do you deserve to be called the Divine King with an attack of this level? Night Sorrow, who was hit, suffered some damage to his Divine Sea. However, it wasn't a big problem because he had 2 Divine Seas at this moment. In an instant, he recovered and immediately shot out the remaining heavenly cloud arrows. Hum, hum, hum. Under the situation where the void was continuously vibrating, 3 heavenly cloud arrows nailed to the location where the other heavenly cloud arrows had hit. How is it? Has the array been broken? Yun Tianyi, who was in the clear sky pagoda, knew that Night Sorrow had only used the Dominator Stone to strengthen 9 heavenly cloud arrows. When she saw the last arrow being shot, she immediately asked, "Ha ha ha. Unfortunately, you didn't break through the defense. You shot 9 arrows at once. Prepare to receive the array's strongest backlash." Before Night Sorrow could answer, Wu Xin, who was outside the array, shouted. Chapter 2706. What? Even Night Sorrow didn't succeed in breaking the array? The 9 heavenly cloud arrows that Night Sorrow had shot out were extremely powerful. They could even kill an ordinary Divine King. But they couldn't break the array's defense? Although everyone knew that Wu Xian was trying to disturb their morale, they still couldn't remain calm. After all, everyone had high hopes for Night Sorrow. Does Night Sorrow have any other ideas? What do you need us to do? Long Tianqing asked immediately. Just as Wu Xian said, the array's backlash would be very serious after shooting out 9 heavenly cloud arrows in a row. If they didn't think of a way to deal with it, everyone would be completely crushed. Even their divine souls would be crushed. The consequences were unimaginable. Brother Night Sorrow, let me blow up the remaining parts of the array. Mo Qianqian, who had been refined into a puppet by the sky-piercing bone pagoda's owner, stepped forward. If his puppet body exploded, the effect would be equivalent to many divine kings added together. It was extremely powerful, and was used to break the array. Hearing this, Yi Shan hurriedly said, "The array formation is actually about to be broken. I still have one last move to try. Brother, wait and see." After replying to Mo Qianqian, Night Sorrow said to Long Tianqing and everyone in the clear sky pagoda, "Don't worry, everyone. If nothing unexpected happens, the array can be broken. Those who are strong, such as Senior Tianqing, Brother Jinya, prepare for battle." Night Sorrow, who was observing with the sea serpent's eye, was so confident because he discovered that the array's walls were about to be penetrated. However, he didn't have any more heavenly cloud arrows that had been strengthened by the sovereign stone. It was unrealistic to want to refine them in an instant. Thus, he took out the heavenly Samsara halberd and prepared to use it as an arrow to break the array. Ha ha ha. You're really laughable. You're actually using a halberd as an arrow. Wu Xian actually knew that the array was about to be broken. He was a little flustered, but he didn't forget to mock Night Sorrow. "It doesn't matter what method I use. The most important thing is that I can break the formation." Night Sorrow swallowed 2 pills to recover his vitality and adjusted himself to his peak state. Then, he shot out the heavenly halberd of Samsara like an arrow. Buzz! The Samsara halberd that was shot out was obviously more powerful than the heavenly cloud arrow. The trajectories of the other heavenly cloud arrows could be seen, but the heavenly Samsara halberd tore through the void completely. After it was shot, it almost disappeared without a trace. When it reappeared, it had already bombarded the 9th heavenly cloud arrow. Crack! After the Samsara halberd hit the 9th sky cloud arrow, there was a slight cracking sound in the air. Hearing this faint cracking sound, Night Sorrow was overjoyed. He knew that the array was almost broken. Bastard! Just a divine lord. What right does he have to be so domineering? Hearing the walls of the array make a kacha sound, Wu Xian's face was filled with tyranny as he smashed the teacup in his hand. He simply couldn't understand how a lower-level divine lord like Night Sorrow could be stronger than the middle-level divine King Jinya. This was something that had never happened in the God realm before. He was much stronger than him in the same batch. This made him very jealous. "Just because I'm a merit divine lord," Wu Xian was originally murmuring, but he did not expect that these words were heard by Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow replied with a sentence, then displayed the azure rock's soul-rending roar, thoroughly shattering the walls that already had cracks. With a bang, the array formation before their eyes was thoroughly broken. Seeing the light of day again, everyone in the vast heaven pagoda could not help crying out loudly. They were equivalent to suppressing it for several decades in the vast heaven pagoda. Venting this sort of emotion through furious roars felt especially invigorating. Haha! Brother Night Sorrow is truly the God Realm's #1 genius since ancient times. The array formation being broken, Jin Ye left the vast heaven pagoda right away and praised loudly. Long Tianqing, who similarly came out, smiled and did not speak. But her gaze when looking at Night Sorrow was full of praise. Toward this genius that she witnessed growing up with her own eyes, Long Tianqing's fondness was beyond words. Everyone is overpraising. Since we've already broken all of the array formations. Next, prepare to start the battle. Night Sorrow breaking the array formation and being praised by a senior. It was impossible to not have any ripples in his heart. But he placed his attention on Wu Xian very quickly. Observing Wu Xian with the Mirage Dragon's eye at close range, Night Sorrow said in an icy tone, "So you're related to otherworldly demons?" You saw through it? Since you saw through it, you should be clear about what you're facing. Wu Xian, whose face was full of brutality, the aura on his body gradually became dark, erupting with an even more powerful aura. The divine domain that he released even made Jin Ye feel terrified. Such a powerful dark aura. This is an otherworldly demon? The Golden Crow clan that Jin Ye belonged to had been reclusive for many years. Seeing such a change happen to Wu Xian's body, he asked in puzzlement. He's not an otherworldly demon, but he's already fallen and demonized, betraying the God Realm. Under Night Sorrow's Mirage Dragon's eye, Wu Xian could be said to have nowhere to hide. Being seen through by Night Sorrow, he said with a smile, "How's the God Realm? So what if you're an otherworldly demon? As long as I kill you and obtain your Tianyun Bao and your providence, I, Wu Xian, will definitely surpass Tianyun Bao and become the strongest person in the world. As for what race I'm from, it doesn't matter. Given your circumstances, you won't be able to become an ultimate expert." Hearing Wu Xian's words, Night Sorrow mocked him. Ultimate expert. The true ultimate experts of the God Realm had all hidden themselves and gone to another world to fight. Wu Xian couldn't compare to that kind of circumstances and feelings. With your Divine Lord vision, you can't see how powerful I'll be in the future. The brutality on Wu Xian's body continued to grow stronger, and his aura became darker. At the same time, he released the 4 Divine King level otherworldly demons hidden in his body. 4 middle-level Divine King level otherworldly demons. Wu Xian, do you think you can fight us with such strength? Night Sorrow, who had already ascended to the Divine Lord level, glanced at the 4 otherworldly demons and confirmed that they were all middle-level Divine King level otherworldly demons. He was confident that he, Long Tianqing, and Jin Ye could wipe out all these evil creatures. Of course the 4 of them won't do, but my methods are heaven-shaking. Today you'll all die without a doubt. Wu Xian's white robe had been completely covered by the black aura. One of his eyes was red and the other was black. He looked extremely evil. As he spoke, he took out an umbrella-shaped black banner from his spatial artifact and threw it into the sky. The originally bright and sunny sky was instantly covered by a thick darkness. After the sky was completely covered by the darkness, a huge crescent-shaped crack suddenly appeared in the void. A black arm covered in green hair stretched out from the crack in the void. Chapter 2707. What's that? The huge hand that reached out from the crack gave off an evil vibe. Night Sorrow couldn't help but feel his heart palpitate when he saw it. He had a premonition that if he was caught by that hand, he would die without a doubt. This is the envoy of the most terrifying region in the Divine Realm other than the Ethereal Mountain and the Dark Forest. You can go with him in peace. Enter the 3rd forbidden area of the Divine Realm. When the black hand first appeared, it had the strength of a lower Divine King. As it reached for Night Sorrow, it gradually increased its strength to the level of a sovereign. It was simply the aura of a half-step sovereign. Wu Xian felt that with this strength, it could easily crush Night Sorrow. A sovereign god. So you're not only related to the extraterrestrial demons, but also the evil creatures of the third forbidden area. Wu Xian. Calling you a slave of 3 surnames is already a compliment. Trash like you must have grown up eating leftovers. You don't have any backbone. Hearing Wu Xian's words, Night Sorrow, who was facing the huge hand and had goosebumps all over his body, reprimanded coldly. He roared, "Halberd, come." The halberd of Samsara, which hadn't been retrieved after breaking the formation, immediately shone with a golden light and flew over from the void. Like a shooting star streaking across the sky, it appeared in Night Sorrow's hand. Grasping the heavenly Samsara halberd in his hand, Night Sorrow immediately used it as an arrow as he moved. He used the heavenly cloud bow to shoot at the large black hand covered in green hair. You overestimate yourself. The huge hand didn't dodge Night Sorrow's attack. Instead, it directly grabbed it. It actually forcibly stopped Tianyun Bao's halberd of Samsara and threw it toward the dark crack. Wu Xian laughed disdainfully when he saw the huge hand's strength. As for Long Tianqing and Jin Ye, they felt their scalps go numb when they saw this scene. This huge hand was too strong. It wasn't something that the two of them and Night Sorrow could resist. What should we do? Jin Ye muttered unconsciously. After leaving the ancient Golden Crow realm and encountering a series of crises, his pride as the Divine King had completely shattered. I'm afraid we're no match for this monster. Although the evil creature in the fissure only extended one arm, Night Sorrow observed it with the sea serpent's eye and discovered that its aura was infinitely close to that of a ruler. It wasn't something he could deal with. Seeing the heavenly Samsara halberd being tossed into the crack of darkness, the heavenly Samsara halberd trembled. Night Sorrow immediately summoned, "Reincarnation Heavenly Halberd, come back." However, although the heavenly Samsara halberd struggled hard and slowed down its speed, it could not change its direction at all. Continue to fly inside. No. Night Sorrow felt like his head was about to explode as he watched the heavenly Samsara halberd that had accompanied him all his life flying towards the dark crevice. He roared and used the dragon roaming steps to chase after the heavenly Samsara halberd. Ridiculous. Seeing Night Sorrow chase after the heavenly Samsara halberd and try to use its own strength to pull it back, the owner of the black hand laughed in the fissure. Its laughter was extremely evil, causing Long Tianqing and Jin Ye to tremble. They simply could not muster up the courage to resist. Ruler. It's a ruler. Its outstretched arm is suppressed by the God world's laws, so it's only a half-step ruler. Hearing this voice, Night Sorrow was completely certain that the other party was a ruler. Ha. Since you know it's a ruler, why are you still resisting? A godlord ant. No matter how outstanding you are, you're still an ant in front of a ruler. Wu Xian, who had not attacked at all, kept laughing while hugging his chest and watching. He knew that although the heavenly Samsara halberd had been thrown out on the surface, the ruler in the fissure was actually trying to pull it back. So what if it's a ruler? No one can touch my divine weapon, Night Sorrow. Hearing Wu Xian's shout, Night Sorrow, who had not been able to pull the heavenly Samsara halberd even after using all his strength, roared and used the limitless body tempering art, which he had not used in a long time, to convert some of his flesh and blood into strength. However, even so, Night Sorrow could not pull the heavenly Samsara halberd back. Although the ruler in the fissure could not come over, the suction force it released was not something Night Sorrow could resist. Ha. An ant trying to shake a tree. You're really laughable. So what if you're burning your flesh and blood? In front of an ultimate ruler, it's a futile effort. Wu Xian's sinister and awe-inspiring face was filled with ridicule. Ultimate? One day, you'll understand that you're not invincible among rulers. In the face of Wu Xian's mockery, the enraged Night Sorrow roared. God World's origin energy bloom. Following Night Sorrow's roar, Wu Xian, the origin energy, which he had obtained by winning first place in the 7-sect tournament, gushed out from his energy center. With the support of the origin energy, Night Sorrow, who was originally at a disadvantage, was gradually covered by a layer of transparent energy. In the beginning, he still could not pull the heavenly Samsara halberd back. However, after the origin energy appeared on Night Sorrow's body, the originally dark heaven and earth were instantly illuminated, and traces of light appeared. These origin energy were like sparks in a prairie, rising little by little. It completely purified the darkness in front of him. Some of them landed on the green-haired arm, causing the hand to unconsciously retreat a little. At the same time, the suction force binding the heavenly samsara halberd weakened a lot. Come back! Night Sorrow roared and pulled the heavenly samsara halberd back completely. What's going on? Wu Xian roared in disbelief when he saw Night Sorrow snatching the heavenly samsara halberd back from the hands of the ruler evil creature. This is light defeating darkness in the end. Night Sorrow, who was holding the heavenly samsara halberd, saw that the light was getting brighter and brighter. After the big black hand was illuminated, it kept retreating toward the crack. He roared, Wu Xian, come let me Night Sorrow, see what other tricks you have up your sleeve. Haha, you alone are not enough to force me to use all my tricks. In the end, the big black hand retreated back into the crack. However, Wu Xian did not panic. His face was full of evil as he closed his black eyes. A ray of light shot out from his red eyes, turning the black flag floating in the sky completely red. After the black flag turned red, the sky, which was almost completely purified, was immediately covered by a red glow. Heaven and earth turned completely blood red. On the originally flat ground, blood water gradually rose. The blood water gradually rose, forming a terrifying sea of blood that drowned the entire Haibei city. What was even more terrifying than the black crack was that countless tentacles with terrifying auras stretched out from the sea of blood. Each tentacle reaped the lives of several innocent cultivators in an instant. Today, not only will you, Night Sorrow, die, but within hundreds of millions of miles, not even a blade of grass will grow. And after I, Wu Xian, absorb all of you as nourishment, I will completely become the first divine king of the God realm. Chapter 2708. The blood-red sky looked like it was about to swallow the world. The cultivators who were swallowed by the blood sea were completely swallowed up, before they could even make a sound. Wu Xian, you've really committed many sins. Today, I, Jinya, will make you pay the price. Seeing this, Jinya took out his copper cauldron and shot out the unique flame of the golden crows. After the golden flame was shot out, it immediately burned toward Wu Xian's position. He was prepared to burn Wu Xian to death. At the very least, he wanted to resolve this mess. Wu Xian's move was simply inhumane. No one present could stand it. Your opponent is me. Jinya had just made his move when a middle-level God King level extraterritorial demon immediately attacked him and stopped him. This otherworldly demon's strength was not that outstanding, but it was about the same as Jinya's. Soon they were in a stalemate. Neither could do anything to the other. Bastard! I, Jinya, immediately left the ancient Golden Crow realm. How did I become a useless person? After leaving the ancient Golden Crow realm and arriving at the divine realm, Jinya had not been of much use. The otherworldly demon in front of him was so angry that his hands were shaking. After the stalemate, he immediately used a secret technique to fight for his life. As for the other two mid-level God King level extraterrestrial demons, one of them attacked Long Tianqing and the other Yishang, preventing them from attacking Wuxin. Everyone has the right to kill otherworldly demons. Long Tianqing immediately took out her divine artifact to fight the otherworldly demon, which was a cold-blooded creature that only knew how to kill. Night Sorrow, who was blocked by the otherworldly demon, took out the Tianyun Bao and shot out a heavenly cloud arrow. Although he had been told not to use the Tianyun Bao easily, he did not want to waste any time. Buzz! A heavenly cloud arrow imbued with the power of virtue shot out like a rainbow. It instantly pierced through the clouds and then disappeared into the void. When it reappeared, it was already at the otherworldly demon's position. How can this be? The otherworldly demon that was blocking Night Sorrow realized that it could not dodge this arrow at all, because it was already trapped in a sealed space. Boom! The heavenly cloud arrow that came out of the void seemed to have turned into a ball of fire. It immediately burned the middle-level Divine King extraterrestrial demon. After advancing to the Divine Lord realm, the sky cloud arrow that Night Sorrow shot out possessed terrifying might. Furthermore, he used the virtuous dragon locking array. Wu Xian, die. He shot an arrow at the otherworldly demon, and used the merit dragon locking array. Night Sorrow immediately used his blood to infuse the Tianyin bow. Under its brilliance, he took out 8 sky cloud arrows and shot them at Heartless. Wu Xian's methods were too bloody. This was something he could not tolerate. Buzz, buzz, buzz. 8 heavenly cloud arrows were shot out consecutively. Even though Night Sorrow's body was astonishingly tough, he was still shaken and spat out a mouthful of blood. Night Sorrow immediately swallowed several recovery pills. An unprecedented sense of danger rose in his heart. He had used the Sovereign Divine Artifact too frequently, and had suffered a severe backlash. The 8 sky cloud arrows that were shot out were all aimed at Wu Xian's position. They were majestic and had the power to shake the heavens and earth. However, what was surprising was that Wu Xian didn't move. He didn't even blink. What's going on? Does he have the confidence to take these arrows head-on? As the saying goes, there must be a demon behind this abnormality. Seeing that Wu Xian did not dodge, Night Sorrow was immediately filled with doubts. Night Sorrow, be careful. I have an extremely ominous feeling. Long Tianqing, who was fighting an otherworldly demon, suddenly transmitted a warning. A thick sense of danger flashed through her heart. It was almost like a sixth sense. This was her special ability. Senior Tianqing, I will be careful. Yi Shang glanced at Wu Xian's incomparably evil face and replied. At this moment, an extremely cold voice that could freeze the void came from the void. Be careful. It's useless. If you provoke this sovereign, the only thing that awaits you is the destruction of your divine soul. Sovereign? Another sovereign had been summoned? This Wu Xian. Hearing the sovereign's voice come from the void again, Jin Nia, who was fighting, was almost speechless. What kind of monsters were the divine realm? A random divine king could actually summon 2 dominator rank characters. Wasn't this a joke? Not good. The aura in the air was clearly stronger than that of the Black Hand from before. And it really did descend into the divine realm. The aura of the sovereign in the void was extremely evil. It was clearly not one of the 7 sovereigns of the divine realm. Night Sorrow guessed that it must be an evil sovereign of the 3rd forbidden area. Facing an opponent of this level, although he did not cower, he did not have the ability to fight at all. After all, sovereigns were on a completely different level. There had never been a legend of a divine king fighting a sovereign, let alone a divine lord fighting a sovereign. Although Night Sorrow was an unparalleled super genius, it was still unrealistic for him to challenge a sovereign with a difference of 2 realms. Diant. Some people aren't what you can touch. The sovereign hidden in the void berated coldly and smacked a palm toward Night Sorrow. Being locked on by this palm, even with the help of the sea serpent's eye, Night Sorrow could not observe any escape routes. Facing a sovereign, the strength of a divine lord was completely insufficient. Husband. Don't. Seeing Night Sorrow locked on by the sovereign's attack, Lin Piaomiao immediately shouted. The supreme bloodline in her body completely erupted. However, in the vast heaven pagoda, although her supreme bloodline erupted, she merely advanced to the level of a divine lord. How could she be a match for a sovereign? Actually, even if her strength was enough, she could not make it in time to attack. How powerful was a sovereign's attack? Night Sorrow did not have the chance to dodge even if he wanted to, let alone everyone in the vast heaven pagoda. Could it be that I, Night Sorrow, am going to die here today? At this very moment, Night Sorrow's emotions were very complicated. He completely had the feeling of experiencing life and death. That feeling of being completely enveloped by death was indeed very terrifying, and made one shudder. You're not dead, but your divine spirit is destroyed. Accept your punishment. The sovereign's cold voice rang out again. Under Wu Xian's devastation, a sea of blood filled the sky. In a moment, many cultivators were pulled into the sea of blood. On Wu Xian's body, blood-colored imprints rose continuously. With each blood imprint he absorbed, his aura grew stronger. The aura on his body also became more and more bloody, and the difference between him and a divine world cultivator grew greater and greater. Wu Xian. He's not a divine world cultivator at all. Seeing the changes on Wu Xian's body under the pressure, Night Sorrow roared in his heart. However, no matter how unwilling he was, there was nothing he could do in the face of a sovereign's attack. All he could do was wait silently. Chapter 2709. Wu Xian looked at Night Sorrow with his red eyes, a mocking smile on his face. You can tell? I'm not a God Realm cultivator. That's right, I'm not. I'm the third Forbidden Zone son of darkness. The autarch in the void is my father. Today, we father and son will give the God Realm a big surprise. Wu Xian's cold voice caused Night Sorrow to shiver. If one of the dark sovereigns of the third Forbidden Zone attacked, the God Realm would be plunged into misery and suffering. Only a sovereign could stop them. His opponent's attack didn't descend for a long time, as though he were toying with him. The feeling of being shrouded in death was extremely unbearable. Dark Moon. You're able to remain indifferent in the face of an evil existence in the Forbidden Zone. Is it because you're afraid, or is it because you have something to do with him? At this moment, a cold, angry roar came from the void. Yishan immediately felt his heart relax when he heard this voice. The threat of death that had enveloped him had actually been shattered by this voice. I'm no match for him. Upon hearing this, the Dark Moon Sovereign, who had been hiding in the void but hadn't attacked, awkwardly replied. Trash. If the God Realm was filled with trash like you, it would have been destroyed long ago. The angry voice rang out once more. The normally insufferably arrogant Dark Moon Sovereign didn't have the slightest bit of temper. He replied, Sovereignty and I'll attack right away. The Dark Moon Ruler, who was hiding in the void, replied without any temper and then struck out at the Dark Ruler. Dark Moon, what's the point of that attack of yours? At this moment, a woman's voice came from the void. Then a wave of zither music rang out, and countless attacks were launched toward the Dark Dominator, who was hiding in the void. 3 sovereigns at once. You really think highly of this sovereign. The Dark Sovereign's voice was still cold, but he was no longer as calm as before. Think highly of you? You think too much. The way we see it, the Dark Moon might betray the God Realm. That's why the two of them came together. Sovereign Tianya's voice rang out once more. A man and a pagoda appeared before everyone's eyes. I've even brought the Tower of Babel. Upon seeing that Hegemon Tianai had brought a sky-split tower with him, Dark Moon, who had attacked the Hegemon of Darkness, immediately explained, Hegemon Tianai, although my Dark Moon doesn't do much, we will never betray the God Realm. You're worrying too much. Let's kill the Darkness Overlord in front of us together. If you didn't betray the God Realm, then why have you been nurturing the son of the Dark Sovereign? To let him grow to such an extent? Let's end this karma today. As Hegemon Tianai was attacking the Hegemon of Darkness, Hegemon Voidnote was attacking. He directly pointed a finger at Wu Xian and mercilessly obliterated him. Wu Xian had been planning to break through to Half-Step Ruler today, but all he had done was summon all sorts of terrifying creatures. Before he could even make a move, he had been obliterated in a single blow. Tianai, you bullied the weak and killed my son. Damn it. I will never let you off. The Dark Dominator from the third Forbidden Area was enraged by Wu Xian's death. You'd better think about how to avoid being completely obliterated first. Attack. Hegemon Tianai barked coldly, then spoke to the artifact spirit of the Sky-Split Tower. Okay. The Sky-Split Tower's artifact spirit replied, then controlled the tower to crush the Darkness Overlord. At the same time, the Light Dominator, who had been playing her zither in the void, revealed herself. Her body was surrounded by a dense divine domain that resembled starlight. The Rain of Swords she played continuously attacked the Darkness Overlord. The Dark Moon Overlord, who had been angrily rebuked by Hegemon Tianai, attacked while also explaining, Hegemon Tianai, I was blind in this matter and mistook you for a trusted subordinate. Today, I will definitely kill this alien to atone for my sins. You're on your own now. Hegemon Tianai snorted coldly, then attacked the Darkness Overlord. As the strongest overlord in the God Realm, he was incomparably powerful. The moment he attacked, he seemed absolutely invincible. Not to mention the others who were dumbfounded, even Yishang was shocked. After he attacked, the void was soon filled with screams and angry rebukes. The Darkness Overlord was unconvinced. The 3 of you ganged up on me and attacked half of my body. Is this how the overlords of the God Realm act? As it turned out, the darkness overlord of the third forbidden area had only crossed half of his body. Aliens cause chaos, and everyone in the god realm has the right to punish them. Night Sorrow, I've already suppressed him. Do you dare attack? Hegemontianai said domineeringly. Heh. The zither playing Hegemontianai didn't say anything, but she smiled at Night Sorrow. She wanted to see if he had the courage to attack Overlord. Why wouldn't I dare? Night Sorrow, who had been suppressed by the Overlord's aura, immediately stood up, raised the Tianyan bow, and fired a skycloud arrow at the Darkness Overlord. This arrow was extremely powerful even against the Divine King, but it was nothing against a Overlord. However, at this moment, the Darkness Overlord's half of his body had been completely suppressed. He could only watch as the ant he had spoken of struck him. You've gone too far. The next time I descend, I'll definitely plunge the god realm into misery and suffering. The Darkness Overlord, who had been struck by Night Sorrow's arrow, felt greatly humiliated. He roared in disbelief, then completely abandoned the Overlord who had crossed over and sealed off space. This was a heroic act, but he had lost half of his body. If he wanted to fully recover, he would need at least 3,000 cycles. Night Sorrow. Very good. You broke through to the Divine Lord level so quickly. Once you're done with your business, come to Tianai Island as a guest. Hegemontianai said to Night Sorrow after using the Sky-Split Tower to suppress half of the Darkness Overlord's body. Yes. Night Sorrow will meet you as soon as possible. Night Sorrow looked at the figure in the air. Hegemontiania's invincible aura made him sigh with emotion. If we didn't want you to break through in despair, we would have attacked long ago. At this moment, Hegemon Clearsound, who was no longer strumming her zither, smiled at Yi Shan. Without waiting for Night Sorrow to reply, she continued, I look forward to you breaking through to the Divine King level as soon as possible. Night Sorrow will work hard. Night Sorrow immediately replied with a smile when he heard Hegemontiania's words. He naturally looked forward to breaking through to the Divine King level even more. I'm leaving. After speaking, Hegemontianai quickly vanished into thin air. Hegemontianai, who still hadn't left, looked at Hegemon Darkmoon and said, Your negligence has caused so much damage to the God Realm and Night Sorrow. How should we resolve this matter? Compensation. Darkmoon is willing to do everything in its power to rebuild North Sea City and build a new home for the survivors. Chapter 27:10. In truth, as a ruler, how could he not know Wuxin's true identity? The reason he was nurturing Wuxin was because he had benefited greatly from it. Seeing Ruler Darkmoon's reaction, Ruler Tianai said, Night Sorrow, if you need anything, just tell me. Night Sorrow immediately understood that he had to demand an exorbitant price today. Otherwise he would be too petty. After thinking for a moment, Night Sorrow said, Night Sorrow's Tianyan Bao is a sovereign artifact, but he doesn't have a sovereign arrow to complement it. Ruler Darkmoon. There's a way. I have the materials. I'll find a way to forge a sovereign arrow for you. Before Night Sorrow could finish, Ruler Darkmoon had already answered. Hearing Darkmoon's words, Night Sorrow immediately understood that he had definitely gained quite a bit from the Ruler of Darkness. He continued, In addition, Night Sorrow wishes to cultivate to the Divine King level as soon as possible, but he doesn't have any resources on him. Hearing this, Ruler Darkmoon's mouth twitched. He said with a pained expression, Fine. I'll give you a king-class divine bloodline. It'll be enough for you to cultivate all the way to the ruler level. At the same time, Darkmoon looked coldly at Night Sorrow, clearly warning him. Night Sorrow hadn't wanted to say anything else, but when he saw Ruler Darkmoon's threatening expression, he was immediately enraged. In a few days, Night Sorrow will establish his immortal domain, but without a single soldier, it'll be difficult for him to establish himself. Ruler Darkmoon, can you provide some assistance? Darkmoon said coldly. Even if I gave it to you, you wouldn't dare accept it. Night Sorrow believes in Ruler Darkmoon's magnanimity. You won't do anything to me over such a small matter. Night Sorrow said indifferently. I also believe that Ruler Darkmoon has the magnanimity to take care of his juniors. He won't watch as Night Sorrow builds everything up from scratch. Seeing that Dark Moon didn't want to give away the powerful Dark Moon army, he immediately spoke up. As soon as Divinity spoke out, Dark Moon realized that today was not the day to be stingy. After pondering for a moment, he said, "I'll give you 10,000 exalted deities. If you nurture it carefully, it will take shape. However, with your current financial resources, I'm afraid it will be difficult to support so many people." In reply to ruler of the Dark Moon, Night Sorrow is indeed unable to support so many cultivators. Night Sorrow said modestly before continuing, "Therefore, I hope that you can help me to the end, ruler of the Dark Moon." What? You mean to say that if I give you 10,000 exalted gods, I will also give you resources to nurture them? Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Dark Moon immediately exploded. I think, however, at this moment, Divinity spoke out once more. Upon hearing Divinity speak, Dark Moon sighed and said, "Forget it, forget it. I will take full responsibility for this matter. As for the rest, don't mention it again." "Good. That's enough." Night Sorrow smiled in response, then looked at Divinity and said, "Thank you for taking care of me, Dimin." "You're welcome. You and I both came from the lower realms, and our starting points were very low. Witnessing your rise is like witnessing myself in the past." After saying this to Night Sorrow, Divinity disappeared into the void. Dimin of the Dark Moon brought Night Sorrow to the Dark Moon Dimin Manor, and tried his best to create a Dimin grade arrow for him. To him, this was a huge loss. After all, not everyone had a Dimin grade artifact. Even a Dimin wouldn't have an easy time accumulating Dimin grade materials. In addition, he gave Night Sorrow a king grade divine vein that he hadn't absorbed yet. As for the promised 10,000 exalted gods, he didn't immediately give them out. He had agreed that once Night Sorrow had his own territory, he would give them out. Night Sorrow felt that this was acceptable. Without saying anything else, he left the Dark Moon Dimin's manor under the murderous gaze of the Dark Moon Dimin. "Lord Dimin, are we just going to watch this kid take away so many resources? Do you need this old servant to lead some people to exterminate him?" As soon as Night Sorrow left, the steward of the Dark Moon Dimin manor spoke up coldly. "Brainless. If I could casually attack him, I would have slapped him to death long ago. He has Divinity and Dimin Voiceless protecting him. We can't deal with him head-on." Dimin of the Dark Moon Dimin had used up all the Dimin grade materials he had accumulated over the years. After saying this, he continued, "Send someone to Divinity's manor, and say that I had a good chat with Night Sorrow. I'm going to give him a piece of land as well. The Dark Moon Dimin's territory is connected to Divinity's territory. If I give him a piece of land, Divinity will give him a piece of land as well. After all, it's easier to manage them together." Dimin of the Dark Moon Dimin drank a cup of wine and said, "As long as his immortal domain isn't surrounded by Divinity's territory, we'll have a chance to deal with him." "Yes, Lord Dimin," the steward replied and said, "This old servant will choose a piece of land for him." Although the Dark Moon Dimin's territory can't compare to Divinity's territory, it's still vast. You don't have to be stingy. The more you give him, the more he'll get back in the future. After all, the territory of the deity realm isn't something that just anyone can defend. Dimin of the Dark Moon Dimin, who was about to be crushed, sneered. In truth, he was an extremely greedy person. Otherwise, he wouldn't have turned a blind eye to Wuxin. He was prepared to give Night Sorrow a piece of land and then have his subordinate, the Divine King, take it back. The deity realm's divine lords and divine kings fought against each other. This was the rule. Even Divinity had no reason to help Night Sorrow in this regard. "Yes, Lord Dimin, this old servant understands. This old servant will personally take back the land that I've given away. However, this old servant is a divine king. If I attack a divine lord, won't Divinity be displeased?" the steward asked with a bow. "Displeased? Displeased my ass. Night Sorrow might only be a divine lord, but his true combat strength isn't any weaker than yours. In battle, you need to rely on the might of the Dark Moon army. Personal strength is not advisable. Understood?" Dimin of the Dark Moon Dimin glanced at the steward. "Yes, This old servant understands. The steward replied and said, when the time comes, this old servant will send out 10 times the number of troops after the deity realm is established. 10 times? Send out 30 times the number and properly torture him. The Dark Moon army coldly snorted. Good. This old servant will definitely make him feel despair. The steward's face revealed an evil smile. Night Sorrow, who didn't know that the deity realm was being targeted before it was even established, left the Dark Moon mansion under Long Tianqing's lead. They went to the All-Heaven ruler's territory to find Ling Tian. Night Sorrow didn't want to make Wu Lingfei wait for him because of anything else. He felt that doing that would be too inhumane. Night Moon Dynasty, especially Night Sorrow's wives, were very supportive of this matter. Chapter 27:11. On the way to All-Heaven's territory, Night Sorrow couldn't help but recall everything that had happened after he met Wu Lingfei. If she hadn't stood up for him, he probably wouldn't have been able to overcome many difficulties. This was an unforgettable debt of gratitude. When he thought of how Ling Yun had crippled Yi Linghuan, Lin Piaomiao, and Yi Shaluo, Night Sorrow's eyes gradually turned cold. To him, this was the greatest humiliation of his cultivation life. Now he was going to kill Ling Yun with his own hands and seek justice for Wu Lingfei and her family members who had their dantians destroyed. Night Sorrow. In All-Heaven's territory, unless it's absolutely necessary, don't kill anyone. Long Tianqing, who was flying beside Night Sorrow, could sense Night Sorrow's killing intent and couldn't help but advise him. The All-Heaven ruler had a very bad reputation. He was even said to be the most despicable ruler in the entire God realm. His character was even worse than the Dark Moon rulers. If he killed his subordinates in his territory, it would be very difficult to resolve the matter. Senior Tianqing, Night Sorrow isn't someone with a strong killing intent right now, but this Ling Yun must be killed. Otherwise, my Dao heart will become unstable. Hearing Long Tianqing's words, Yi Shang immediately replied with a frown. Long Tianqing saw Night Sorrow's expression and continued, I understand how you feel, but we have to think of a way to escape. Although Ruler Tianai and Ruler Qingyin take good care of you, they probably won't take action for you because of this matter. What if the All-Heaven ruler is dissatisfied and wants to kill you? How will we deal with that? Long Tianqing sighed and continued. Sigh. Although Ruler Tianai said that the rulers will retaliate if they attack you. If the All-Heaven ruler doesn't do it himself, how will you deal with him if he sends out all his subordinates? The Divine King? Let's take it one step at a time. No matter what, I must kill Ling Yun. Night Sorrow said resolutely. At this time, in the Clear Sky Pagoda, Night Sorrow's wives spoke one after another. Other than Jing Yun, all of them had experienced the events of that day, and all of them supported Night Sorrow to eliminate Ling Yun. It was obvious that Ling Yun wasn't just Night Sorrow's inner demon. He was also a target that the entire Night Moon dynasty had to kill. Otherwise, it would be difficult to wash away the humiliation of that day. Since everyone has already made up their minds, I won't say anything more. However, this is the territory of All-Heaven, so it's not convenient for me to make a move. I hope you understand. Out of consideration for her family, she really couldn't make a move in All-Heaven's territory. I don't want to bring a strong enemy to the dragons. Senior Tianqing, you're too polite. In fact, no one wants to provoke a mad dog. Night Sorrow nodded in agreement. But I have to kill Ling Yun. No one can stop me. This might be the reason why you have the disposition of a ruler, but I don't. Looking at the stubborn Night Sorrow, Long Tianqing smiled. She was clear that if one wanted to achieve greater heights, one's will must be incomparably firm. Night Sorrow happened to have that kind of character. Senior Tianqing, you flatter me. Actually, the so-called disposition of a ruler is all fake. I feel that there isn't a ruler who purely relies on talent to advance to a ruler. In the process of flying, Night Sorrow looked at the famous mountains below his feet. This was the first time he felt confident in his heart after coming to the divine realm. He said to the clansmen in the Clear Heaven Pagoda, if there aren't any major changes, my Night Moon dynasty will establish a foothold in the divine realm. All this time, it's Night Sorrow's fault for making everyone follow me everywhere in the Clear Heaven Pagoda. You brat, You're so outstanding. We see it in our eyes and feel gratified in our hearts. Don't think about anything, don't say anything, just follow your heart and move forward. You're the greatest pride of the Night Moon Dynasty. We, your family, don't want to be a burden that binds you. Yi Linghuan said immediately. Night Sorrow's rise in the divine realm was so fast. As his grandfather, he was very gratified. It's a pity that we're in a hurry now. Otherwise, we can have a good drink. Night Sorrow's father Yi Wuyo said with a smile, looking cultured and refined. Haha, then you guys drink a cup. It won't affect anything. At this time, Long Tianqing took out a king-grade flying divine artifact and invited Yi Linghuan and Yi Wuyo out. The three of them sat in the cabin, chatting and drinking. This was a leisure that Night Sorrow had not experienced for a long time. He enjoyed it very much. Long Tianqing and Jin Nie entered the Clear Heaven Pagoda to recover from the injuries they suffered during the battle. Although the two of them were not seriously injured, they still needed time to heal. Shang'er, the most difficult thing to do is to not forget your roots. Now, you can be said to have your own reputation in the divine realm, but you didn't forget your Aunt Fei. This makes me very gratified. To me, you're invincible under the heavens, not as benevolent as ruling the world. Yi Wuyo raised his wine cup and said a sentence. Then he looked at Yi Linghuan and said, Father suffered a few days ago. This unfilial child salutes you. Haha. The pain of the physical body the last time is nothing at all. But the pain in my heart must be returned with an eye for an eye. Let's toast. Yi Linghuan said a sentence with a smile, raised his wine cup and downed it. Grandfather, rest assured. Grandson will completely seek justice for everyone. Those who humiliate others will be humiliated by others. Lingyun can't escape this calamity. Night Sorrow, who similarly raised his wine cup, said a sentence and prepared to toast. Chatting and drinking with his grandfather and father was something that he had not experienced for a long time. The atmosphere made him enjoy it very much. Boom. But just as Night Sorrow placed the wine cup by his lips and prepared to drink it, Long Tianqing's king-grade flying divine artifact suddenly suffered an attack. The entire divine artifact shook. Night Sorrow, who was caught off guard, was splashed with wine. Who is it? Night Sorrow, who was originally enjoying the atmosphere, immediately stood up angrily. The three of you can scram, but you have to leave the king-grade divine artifact behind. Night Sorrow walked out of the inner cabin of the flying divine artifact. When he stood outside, he saw 13 Sir Gods in front of him. The 13 Sir Gods had a very strong murderous aura. Clearly, they were not kind people. One of the Sir Gods, who had a scar face, immediately shouted when he saw Night Sorrow, Yi Linghuan, and Yi Wuyo walk out. Clearly, they knew that Night Sorrow and the other two were the only ones in the king-grade divine artifact. Hence, they had wantonly intercepted them. How did they do it? I didn't sense anyone using the power of God's soul. Thinking of this, Night Sorrow was suddenly curious about the 13 fierce-looking people in front of him. He wanted to know how they could detect the internal situation of the flying divine artifact without using their God soul. He said, Tell me, how did you determine that there are only the three of us in the flying divine artifact? As long as you say that you offended me, I will let bygones be bygones. Otherwise, I'm afraid you will suffer. Ha ha ha. Brothers, I didn't hear wrongly, right? Hearing Night Sorrow's words, the 13 of them all laughed. Chapter 27:12. Ha ha ha. The ignorant are truly fearless. The leading Sir God laughed coldly. The smell of blood on his body was thicker than the others. Clearly, he was an existence that had struggled in the sea of blood. The other Sir Gods also started laughing maniacally. A middle-level Sir God with a protruding mouth and monkey cheeks said, Not to mention a low-level Sir God like you. Even a low-level divine king would have to pay a price to leave after entering the array of the 13 eagles of Yunling. Array? Hearing this, Night Sorrow opened the eye of the sea serpent and observed his surroundings. However, he did not find any traces of an array nearby. He could not help but be puzzled. Ha! Another ignorant hothead. Seeing that Night Sorrow did not find any clues, the scarred Sir God immediately mocked him. He was ranked 4th among the 13, and was known as the 4th Master of Yunling. This seems to be an array formed naturally by heaven and earth. Its power is uncertain. At this moment Long Tianqing, who was in the clear sky pagoda, reminded him. Relatively speaking, she was more knowledgeable and had dabbled in all aspects. I see. This place should be called Yunling. Hearing this, Night Sorrow could not help but look further away. He discovered that the surrounding 100,000 miles of mountains pierced the clouds. The terrain had indeed formed an array. An array formed by the momentum of heaven and earth is indeed mysterious. However, how do they control it? Night Sorrow, who was observing, could not help but be puzzled. At the same time, he was also guessing the effect of the array in front of him. At this moment, the second sister of the 13 Eagles of Yunling, who was also the only female present, smiled and said, "You men really love to show off. Every time a fat sheep comes, you have to let it observe the array. In my opinion, we should just kill it directly. A king-level ascension artifact is extraordinarily precious." Second sister, don't forget that person's instructions. The eldest brother of the 13 Eagles of Yunling glanced at the woman beside him and said, "Now that we are sure that they do not have the foresight, let's do it. As the saying goes, even a lion uses its full strength to catch a rabbit. Let's attack together and kill the three in front of us." Ha! Where did these three come from? Can anyone below the Sir God be considered human? The fourth brother of the 13 Cloud Ridge Eagles laughed heartily and took out a saber from his spatial magic tool. He said, "I'll kill that divine monarch. Don't snatch it from me." So what you're saying is, with so many of us here, we'll kill 2 ants? Hearing fourth brother Yunling's words, the others were immediately dissatisfied. The woman who was ranked second said disdainfully, "What are you thinking, Scarface? Ha ha ha. Then let's rely on our own abilities and strike first to gain the advantage." The scar-faced Yunling fourth laughed and decided to make his move. "Father, grandfather, you guys enter the vast heaven pagoda. I'll deal with these people." Although Night Sorrow was not afraid of the sudden appearance of so many divine lords, he did not wish for his father and grandfather to be accidentally injured. At this moment, Jin Ye said, "Brother Night Sorrow, let me fight. There are more than 10 divine lords and they are in the enemy's array formation. They might have some special means. Brother Jin Ye, you'd better watch the battle with peace of mind in the vast heaven pagoda. I want to test my true strength. In the future, unless it's a last resort situation, I won't use Tianyan Bao again." After replying to Jin Ye, Night Sorrow unleashed a hand of cleaving heaven and earth at Cloud Ridge fourth brother. Now that he advanced to the Divine Lord realm, he displayed the splitting heaven splitting earth hand even more smoothly. The power was clearly different too. With a slap like this, the fiendish Yunling fourth was directly smacked flying. Not good. This low-ranked Divine Lord is a little strong. Being directly smacked flying by Night Sorrow, Yunling fourth immediately gave a loud roar. Night Sorrow's palm made him feel like he was facing the Divine King. The disparity in strength even made him feel despair. Haha, how strong can a low-ranked Divine Lord be? I think that it's because you haven't fought for several decades, your strength declined. Seeing Yunling fourth suffer a loss right away, Yunling's second mother started laughing disdainfully. "Second sister, don't be careless. He's really very strong." Seeing many brothers laughing, not placing Night Sorrow in their eyes at all, Yunling fourth immediately said in a great rage, "Haha, fourth brother is really interesting. After suffering a loss, he's starting to find excuses." Yunling eldest brother also laughed. At this point, they still did not take Night Sorrow seriously. One of them even teased, "You're not bad at all. You've beaten our fourth brother to such a state. We're very happy. Maybe we'll let you off today." "Let me off? You guys are really overjoyed." Night Sorrow smiled, then took out the Samsara Heavenly Halberd and prepared to attack again. King-grade Divine Artifact? There's a King-grade Divine Artifact. This low-ranked Divine Lord doesn't look simple. Seeing that Night Sorrow's flying artifact was King-grade, the Samsara Heavenly Halberd that he took out was also King-grade. The originally arrogant Yunling's second mother's expression became slightly more serious. One of the people who had just teased Night Sorrow laughed and said, "As long as we activate the array, we can even deal with the low-ranked Divine King." Why should we be afraid of a low-ranked divine lord? That's true. Yinling's second mother nodded and ordered. No matter what, since he's not the fated one, let's attack. Let's finish him off first. 2 king-grade divine artifacts are rare treasures. Alright. Attack. He can injure fourth brother with one attack. His strength should not be simple. Everyone, pay more attention. Eldest Yunling said. Then took out a 7-foot rake from his spatial artifact and slammed it toward Night Sorrow. Seeing that their eldest brother had attacked, the other divine lords stopped talking and used their own abilities to attack Night Sorrow. After advancing to Divine Lord, I wonder how powerful the Green Rock soul-splitting roar will be. Facing the siege of 12 divine lords, Night Sorrow immediately used the Green Rock soul-splitting roar's third roar, Break Reincarnation. After all, this was a group attack move, and the effect of group attacks was very good. Just as he roared, Night Sorrow used the Samsara Heavenly Halberd to use the Roaring Flames Demon Subduing. Both moves were group attacks, and both had the effect of attacking one soul. The 12 divine lords who were attacking Night Sorrow were all sent flying when he used the Green Rock soul-splitting roar. When the Roaring Flames Demon Subduing was used, the weakest few even wailed in pain. It was only now that everyone realized how terrifying Night Sorrow was. Yunling's second mother immediately shouted, Eldest brother, this divine lord is too strong. Quick, activate the Heaven and Earth Array. You don't have to tell me that. Eldest Yunling, who was defeated by Night Sorrow in one move, was an invincible divine lord ranked 73rd on the divine lord list. He could not even withstand one roar from Night Sorrow, so he naturally knew how strong his opponent was. As he spoke, he silently recited a mysterious incantation. The incantation he chanted turned into runes and floated into the sky. Chapter 27:13. The originally layered mountain peaks changed appearance in an instant, seemingly transforming into one heavenly pillar after another, spanning between heaven and earth. Above the enormous heavenly pillars was a cloudless azure sky for thousands of miles. On the ground, the originally lush green grass and trees were all gone without a trace. Replacing them were massive numbers of demonic beasts. Seems like the plants all became demonic beasts. Taking the scene before her eyes, Long Tianqing immediately opened her mouth to warn. Yes. I can see through their main bodies. The Night Sorrow who activated the clam dragon I answered. Although the surrounding environment changed drastically, he did not panic at all. But right at this time, Night Sorrow suddenly felt that the surrounding heaven and earth was absorbing the divine essence energy within his body. He immediately asked in puzzlement, What's going on? The surrounding heaven and earth is actually absorbing the power within my body. What? In that case, this place is the Heaven and Earth Spirit Gathering Grand Array? Hearing Night Sorrow's words, the Long Tianqing inside the vast heaven pagoda immediately exclaimed in shock. What's the Heaven and Earth Spirit Gathering Grand Array? Night Sorrow immediately asked in puzzlement. The Heaven and Earth Spirit Gathering Grand Array is a special array formed by Heaven and Earth's grand momentum. Normally, what's below this kind of array formation isn't simple. Long Tianqing explained and continued. For example, a Heaven and Earth Spirit Gathering Grand Array that appeared once had a sovereign corpse below. In the end, this sovereign corpse virtually revived. At that time, the sovereigns of that era made a move together and thoroughly annihilated it. In that case, it's very likely that there's something below here too. Night Sorrow asked a sentence and displayed the Samsara Heavenly Halberd without hesitation, stabbing a spear towards all of the Cloud Ridge 13 eagles. Each spear was a forbidden spear. Having your divine essence energy absorbed by the array formation, and still dare to display your spear art like this, you're really not afraid of being sucked dry. Seeing Night Sorrow unleash his spear so ferociously, the Cloud Ridge boss immediately mocked. He was clear what was going on with this array formation. You'd better worry about whether or not you'll die. The Night Sorrow who stabbed out 13 spears did not thoroughly deal the killing blow, but the attacks were very ferocious. Among the Cloud Ridge 13 eagles, only the boss was an invincible divine lord on the Divine Lord proclamation. He barely managed to receive this attack. As for the others, they were no match for Night Sorrow, and were sent flying one after another. The one who was most seriously injured was the fourth brother of the Cloud Ridge, who had been severely injured before. After being sent flying again, he suddenly spat out a mouthful of old blood and said, "This time you all believe me. We've kicked an iron plate." Not simple indeed. The deity realm did not have such a powerful divine sovereign. Could it be that the divine lord is deliberately hiding his strength? Yinling's second mother, who was also injured, asked with a puzzled expression. He is a divine lord. It's just that his strength is too strong. Big Boss Yinling's expression changed drastically as he said, "If I'm not wrong, it's very likely that he's Night Sorrow who recently rose to fame in the divine realm." Night Sorrow? The last time I heard of him, he was still a high god. The person we are facing now is at least a divine lord, Yinling's second mother said with a look of disbelief. What's impossible about that? For someone under Hegemontia's protection, breaking through is as easy as drinking cold water. Big Boss Yinling originally had a trump card that he had not used. However, after recalling some of the legends, he immediately gave up on resisting. Cupping his fists, he said, "We, the 13 eagles of the Cloud Ridge, were blind to have offended you. Tell us what to do. We admit defeat." As he spoke, he deactivated the Heaven and Earth Energy Gathering Array. "You surrendered so easily?" Night Sorrow did not expect the fierce-looking 13 eagles to surrender so easily. He could not help but laugh coldly. "If I remember correctly, you were prepared to kill me. What do you think we should do? Since we admit defeat, we are prepared to pay a certain price. If you need anything, just tell us and we can discuss it." Big Boss Yinling said politely. "Bringing it up for discussion? Isn't that bargaining?" "Dream on." Night Sorrow scolded and continued. "First, teach me the origin of the array and the incantation." "No. This cannot be exposed. Otherwise, we will die." Big Boss Yinling immediately retorted. "If you don't tell me, you will die immediately. If you tell me, I may help you block the backlash." When Night Sorrow said this, he released a dense amount of merit power, showing that he was a merit divine lord, and that he was a man of his word. "You are Night Sorrow?" Big Boss Yinling immediately asked when he saw Night Sorrow release his merit power. "That's me. You can tell me what you want to know. No matter what, I will protect you." The 13 eagles of the Cloud Ridge reeked of blood. Night Sorrow originally thought that it was because they had killed too many people. However, after the array was activated, he realized that it was because there was a dense smell of blood below. The thick smell of blood on their bodies was because they had cultivated here for a long time and had accidentally absorbed it into their bodies. As such, Night Sorrow determined that there was a very dense smell of blood here. "Big Boss, why don't you tell us? What if he can save us?" At this moment, second mother Yinling suddenly advised. "No. That senior once said that we can only tell this matter to the fated person." Big Boss Yinling shook his head and said, "He did not recognize this array. He is not the fated person. If we tell him, we will definitely die." "Big Boss." Second mother Yinling wanted to say something but did not say it. "What is the fated person that you are talking about?" Night Sorrow heard everyone's conversation and immediately asked, "To be able to say the name of the array is the fated person. You are definitely not. The other two with you are also not." Big Boss Yinling sighed. "Although I didn't recognize what kind of formation it was, a friend of mine said the name of the formation." Night Sorrow immediately remembered Long Tianqing's words and asked, "Is this array called the Heaven and Earth Spirit Gathering Array?" "Yes. That's the name. Where is your friend?" When Big Boss Yinling heard this name, his eyes immediately lit up. "Senior Tianqing, come out." Night Sorrow immediately summoned Long Tianqing out from the clear sky pagoda. "Divine King? You actually have the Divine King in your spatial artifact." Seeing Night Sorrow summon the Divine King Long Tianqing out, Big Boss Yinling was stunned. "Divine King or Divine Monarch, there is no difference to you. Either way, I can crush you," Night Sorrow said domineeringly and continued. "You can tell Senior Tianqing about this place." "Senior? What made you tell me the name of this formation?" Big Boss Yinling looked at Long Tianqing and asked nervously. "I said it." Long Tianqing said casually, but there was a sense of dignity in her voice. To ordinary divine monarchs, the divine king did indeed have a lot of pressure. It's good that it's you. Quick, follow me and kneel down to our benefactor. After Long Tianqing confirmed it, Big Boss Yunling immediately knelt down and kowtowed. What is the meaning of this? Chapter 27:14. We have been waiting here for more than 10 reincarnations, waiting for you to save us. First brother Yunling knelt on the ground and bowed sincerely. Back then, we were captured by a terrifying existence. We helped guard this place and were unable to leave. It was not until more than 10 reincarnations ago that a powerful senior appeared here. He instructed us to wait for the fated person. Terrifying existence? What happened? Tell me from the beginning to the end. Long Tianqing signaled the 13 eagles of Yunling to stand up and speak. After first brother Yunling stood up, he looked at second mother Yunling and said, "Second mother, you are eloquent. Why don't you tell us?" "Yes, big brother." Second mother Yunling bowed to Long Tianqing and said, "We did not know each other at first. We were rogue cultivators scattered all over the divine realm. However, we were captured by a terrifying existence who failed the sovereign tribulation and brought here. When he was about to die, he activated the heaven and earth great formation and asked us to guard this place and wait for him to wake up." You mean that there is a terrifying existence who failed the sovereign tribulation below? Is he dead or alive? Long Tianqing frowned and asked. In fact, this matter did not have much to do with her and Night Sorrow. Moreover, they had urgent matters to attend to. After all, it was better to save Wu Lingfei as soon as possible. She did lose her life at that time. However, we still feel that she is not completely dead. After so many reincarnations, I am afraid that she is not far from being revived. Second mother Yunling said in a low voice. Long Tianqing and Night Sorrow frowned slightly when they heard this. She added, "Both of you look like kind people. Please save us. We have no choice but to help him guard this array formation. However, from your actions, it seems that you are looking forward to the battle." Night Sorrow said coldly when he thought of fourth brother Yunling, and the others' reactions when they met him. Instantly, the atmosphere became cold. First brother Yunling saw that the situation was not good and quickly explained. "Actually, it is not our nature to be like this. It is just that after staying in this formation for too long, it will naturally make us irritable. We cannot die even if we want to, so we can only endure it." "What do you mean by that?" Long Tianqing asked in puzzlement when she heard this. "In this formation, even if we are killed, we will be reborn after 30,000 years. This is also the reason why we have always maintained 13 people." Yunling explained angrily. "It looks good, but in fact, it is a great torture for us. This also caused a huge change in everyone's temperament. You are pitiful people. But from the sound of it, he should have done a lot of evil." Long Tianqing gazed at them and said, "Give me a reason to save all of you. We can swear that after being saved, we will serve our benefactor forever and never do anything evil again." Boss Yunling knelt on the ground again and said, "Oh." However, before Long Tianqing could respond, many demonic beasts, which had been transformed from plants, pounced on them. These overwhelming demonic beasts didn't attack Night Sorrow and Long Tianqing. Instead, they pounced on the 13 Cloud Ridge Eagles. In the face of these demonic beasts, although they kept resisting, they were still crazily bitten. Not long after, he was bitten beyond recognition. "Let's save them. They look too miserable." Long Tianqing couldn't bear to see the 13 Cloud Ridge Eagles suffer such inhumane torture. Night Sorrow looked at Boss Yunling and said, "Weren't you the one who activated the formation and turned these plants into demonic beasts? Why didn't you stop the formation?" "I didn't have the ability to stop the formation. I could only wait. They didn't attack us in the past." Boss Yunling, who had demonic beasts of all sizes crawling on his body, said intermittently, "It seems that they were left behind by the person below to counter you. When they noticed that you were acting strangely, they immediately attacked." Night Sorrow made his own judgment and sighed. "Although I feel sorry for Auntie Fei, I can't bear to see them being tortured like this." Senior Tianqing, Let's do something. At the very least, we should help them get rid of these demonic beasts. These demonic beasts are too cruel. If we don't do something, it won't make sense. Long Tianqing looked at the bloodthirsty demonic beasts and said hesitantly, "But how can we help?" "Let me do it," Night Sorrow said as he gathered the power of merit and shot it at the 13 Cloud Ridge Eagles. The power of merit split into 13 dragons and wrapped around the 13 Cloud Ridge Eagles, purifying the demonic beasts that were wreaking havoc. The demonic beasts were purified by the power of merit and turned into many tiny bits of power of merit, which were absorbed by Night Sorrow. Although there were many of them, they didn't help Night Sorrow much. "Thank you, benefactor." After being saved, the 13 Cloud Ridge Eagles immediately knelt down and bowed to Night Sorrow. At this point, they didn't care who was the fated one. "What is the chant to activate the formation?" Night Sorrow, who had saved the 13 Cloud Ridge Eagles, asked. Hearing this, Boss Yunling looked troubled and said, "Benefactor, although I can activate the formation, I can't recite or write the chant." "I see." Night Sorrow originally wanted to learn the chant of this natural formation, but he gave up when he heard this. He said, "I have urgent matters to attend to now. Since you have already gotten rid of these demonic beasts, wait for us here. After I finish what I have to do, I will come back and save you." However, as you said after being saved, you have to work for me and not do anything evil. Of course, of course. Hearing Yi Shang's words, everyone from the 13 Yunling Eagles immediately revealed a trace of anticipation. Yunling Old 4, who had been injured by Yi Shang, nodded and bowed. "Great benefactor Yi, I won't hide it from you. It won't be easy to save us, but at the same time, you can obtain rare resources." "Resources? What's going on?" Night Sorrow was puzzled. That terrifying existence was very rich when she was alive. If we can find her corpse. Boss Yunling started to explain. Hearing this, Night Sorrow immediately interrupted him and said, "A gentleman earns money in a proper way. Let's forget about digging graves. Then we will wait for the two benefactors to come again." Boss Yunling wasn't a person who dilly-dallied. After saying this, he sent Night Sorrow and Long Tianqing off. As for the others, they were reluctant to part with them. "Don't be like this, everyone. We will be back." Long Tianqing sighed when she saw everyone's pitiful eyes and continued on with Night Sorrow. Chapter 27:15. Long Tianqing looked at Night Sorrow and said, "You're saying that the Divine King who failed to break through to the Sovereign Realm isn't actually dead? Instead, he's using this formation to recover his strength?" "I do have that feeling." Night Sorrow, who was also flying into the distance, nodded in confirmation. He continued, "Just now in the formation, I sensed a trace of a strange aura from those small demonic beasts. Those little monsters seem to be his eyes. If he's really close to the Sovereign Realm, even if we want to save him, I'm afraid we won't be able to," Long Tianqing said with some disappointment. She didn't want to break her promise, but in comparison, her life was still more important. There was no need to sacrifice herself and Night Sorrow just to save the 13 Yunling Eagles. I feel that instead of saving the 13 Yunling Eagles, it's better to save the being below. Under Long Tianqing's astonished gaze, Night Sorrow said, "I have some conjectures, but I can't be sure yet. Once we save Auntie Fei, we can confirm them. If our conjectures are correct, saving that being might be a good thing." "Okay. Since you have the same idea, I'll cooperate." Long Tianqing nodded. Although she didn't know why Night Sorrow wanted to save the being below, she was still prepared to cooperate. "I'll cooperate as well," Jinya also said from within the clear sky pagoda. However, he then added, "But I only know how to use brute force. I don't know anything about mysterious formations." "Haha, you don't need to know anything about formations." Night Sorrow smiled in response to Jinya, and summoned Long Tianqing's king-grade flying divine artifact again. However, after this incident, Yi Linghuan and Yi Wuyo didn't come out to drink anymore. After passing by several bustling cities, Night Sorrow followed Long Tianqing to Lingyun City in the Azura Divine Realm. Lingyun was now very powerful. The city he controlled was even more powerful than the Purple Mansion Divine Lord, who he had once tried to curry favor with. His status was second only to the Divine King. Send someone to inform Lingyun Divine Lord that Night Sorrow has come to challenge him. When they arrived at the entrance of the Lingyun City Lord Mansion, Long Tianqing immediately asked someone to pass the message. There's no need to pass the message. I have already sensed your arrival. Before the guards could move, Lingyun's figure appeared in front of Night Sorrow and Long Tianqing. Lingyun, I'm here to find you. Let's settle what happened back then. Night Sorrow said with a fake smile. Lingyun was one of the few people he hated so much. Are you Night Sorrow? The creator of heaven and earth was pretty strong. But if you want to challenge me, you're definitely courting death. No Divine Lord is a match for me, Lingyun said arrogantly before bursting into laughter. At the same time, Luli, who had appeared with him before, slowly walked out of the city lord's mansion. Seeing Night Sorrow appear, she smiled and said, I didn't expect that your strength increased so quickly. In just a few short years, he has already grown from a feather god to a divine lord. You're not slow either. You're also at the Divine Lord realm. Night Sorrow glanced at Luli and said with a somewhat complicated expression. Speaking of which, Lingyun was prepared to attack him back then and kill him directly. At the crucial moment, it was Luli's one sentence that made Lingyun stop, indirectly saving his life. However, it was also precisely because of her that Wu Lingfei was abducted here. In reality, the Wu Lingfei that we brought is also close to Divine Lord, Luli said with a smile and continued. As long as she consummates with the City Lord, she can break through to Divine Lord through dual cultivation. Bastard! What did you say? Hearing the word consummate, Night Sorrow immediately flew into a rage. Ha! What she said is exactly what I want to do. Wu Lingfei's talent is outstanding. She's the best furnace to help me increase my strength. Lingyun laughed arrogantly. Originally, I wanted to keep you for a while longer. You're courting death yourself. Where are we fighting? You should remember what you said before, right? Night Sorrow opened his mouth and repeated what Long Tianqing said. This matter of arranging a battle with you was determined long ago. This seat naturally won't go back on my word. A trace of evil intent was revealed between Lingyun's brows. He said coldly, You're merely a dog that this seat spared. Now you've become something. A little interesting. Our decisive battle is a month later. Because this seat will make use of this 1 month's time to invite all kinds of honored guests. Let all of them witness how I'll torture and kill you, the creator of heaven and earth. Okay, I'll wait for you for a month. A month later, I'll take your life. Night Sorrow replied coldly, then looked at Long Tianqing and said, Senior Tianqing, let's go. Okay. Let's find an inn to stay. Long Tianqing nodded her head. Following that, the two people stayed in a inn called Vermilion Bird Inn. The environment here was very good. Night Sorrow entered the vast heaven pagoda for a period of time after this, and carried out the final sprint. In the contact earlier, he discovered that Lingyun was somewhat different from before. Not only did his strength become much stronger, his aura also changed somewhat. It was as if there was another person hidden in his body, giving people a very sinister feeling. What Night Sorrow did not expect was that there were still 10 days until the showdown. Azurite suddenly came to the Vermilion Bird Inn to find Night Sorrow. What business do you have? After Night Sorrow got the message, he walked out of the vast heaven pagoda to see the other party. I came to tell you that the current Lingyun is already not the Lingyun back then. Or rather, only half of the Lingyun back then. Azurite's brows carried a trace of sorrow. What do you mean by this? The other party's words were roughly the same as Night Sorrow's perception. He hurriedly opened his mouth to ask. In reality, this matter of dealing with you, Lingyun was the one being used from beginning to end. Back then, he plundered your source reward under someone else's instructions. After plundering your destiny back, he was completely controlled by the other party. Azurite said with some hatred. Why are you telling me this? Night Sorrow asked expressionlessly. Azurite sighed and said, Although Lingyun isn't some good person, he's my husband after all. I, Azurite, don't have the ability to take revenge. I only hope that you can kill that person. At present, it looks like you're the only one who has a chance to kill him. However, his strength has already surpassed your imagination. I'm here to give you a reminder. Knight Sorrow nodded his head and asked, strength beyond imagination, what does this mean? That person is one of the strategists of the All-Heaven Sovereign Manor. His methods can be said to be heavenly. When fighting with him, the slightest carelessness will cause one to fall for it. I think that this 1 month's time is him setting up a formation. Or perhaps he's brewing some conspiracy. Azurite voiced her judgment. Chapter 27:16. I'm not sure either, but he's definitely not as simple as you think. It's not an exaggeration to say that he's a genius in formations and divination. You're on your own. Luli said one last sentence, and prepared to turn and leave. At this moment, Knight Sorrow called out to her and asked with a trembling voice, can you tell me how Aunt Faye has been all these years? Because that existence wants to nurture her into the strongest furnace in the god realm. So she never lacks treasures and cultivation resources. Therefore, her strength has been increasing rapidly. It won't be long before she can break through to Monarch God. Luli explained with a smile. Besides, no one has touched her virginity. Scram. Don't use these words on my Aunt Faye. Hearing Luli teasing Wuling concubine, Knight Sorrow immediately rebuked her. To him, Aunt Faye had always been the most sacred existence in his heart, and no one could blaspheme her. Humph. You're turning your back on me. After being scolded by Knight Sorrow, Luli left the Vermilion Bird Tower with an unhappy expression. After leaving the Vermilion Bird Tower, she immediately returned to the city lord's residence and walked into Ling Yun's room. How is it? How important do you think Wu Ling concubine is to him? The moment Luli entered the room, Ling Yun stripped her naked and pressed her onto the bed. I leaked everything according to your instructions. He should be very important to that Wu Ling concubine. I only slightly mentioned the matter of my virgin body and he couldn't take it. Luli explained faintly. As long as anyone's weakness is caught, they will become extremely weak. In the battle a few days later, he will lose without a fight. A cold smile appeared on Ling Yun's face. As Luli panted, she was puzzled. But Luli doesn't understand. Why did you say that you used Ling Yun and already controlled his body? Luli, you don't understand how painful it is to hide a secret in one's heart. The military advisor who was controlling Ling Yun's body, as he wantonly played with Luli, he sighed. In fact, I want everyone to know that Ling Yun is dead, and I, Mu Tianlai, am the master of this body. Then let's make it public. In any case, Lord Luo Tian, and you are as close as brothers. He definitely won't care about this matter. Luli said in a sweet voice. It can't be made public. This military advisor cannot let anyone know that I have successfully cultivated the god-level clone technique. This body can only belong to Ling Yun, not me. Mu Tianlai, who had completely taken control of Ling Yun's body and turned it into an avatar, laughed coldly. Luli, who was pressed under his body, suddenly shivered from the coldness and couldn't help but cry out in surprise. At the same time, in the Vermilion Bird Pavilion, Knight Sorrow, Long Tianqing, and Jean Miao were discussing the battle. For this battle, Knight Sorrow was very confident in his own strength. After all, he had Tianyun Bao. If he used it, he did not fear any divine lord. But if he was forced to hand over Tianyun Bao, he would definitely be targeted by the great hegemon of all heaven. The great hegemon of all heaven was definitely the weakest of the 7 great hegemons. If he targeted Knight Sorrow, even hegemon Tianai would find it difficult to protect him. I think you should rely on your strength to fight. Tianyun Bao, don't use it if you can help it. After all, the opponent is only a divine lord. He can't be that strong. Long Tianqing, who had analyzed the situation, thought of the great hegemon of all heaven's character, and reminded him. It's decided then. But we still need to make other preparations. After all, this is the enemy's territory. We can't be too greedy. Knight Sorrow said. As the saying goes, a cunning rabbit has 3 burrows. It's better if we set up some teleportation formations in and outside the city. Otherwise, we'll be trapped in the city. If the enemy is the great hegemon of all heaven, I'm afraid the teleportation formations won't be of any use, Jinya immediately said when he heard Night Sorrow's words. It won't be the great hegemon of all heaven. After all, Hegemon Tianai said that he would protect me. Even if it's the great hegemon of all heaven, it will be his subordinate. Night Sorrow looked at Jinya and said. Then he took out the map he had bought recently and said, I marked the points on the map. Now that you're basically a free man, set up the teleportation formations at these points. Okay. I'll do it right away. Jinya didn't know what Night Sorrow's intentions were, but he still did as he was told. Why did you wait until today to let Jinya set up the teleportation formations? Long Tianqing asked suspiciously after Jinya left. The earlier we set them up, the easier it is for us to be discovered. Night Sorrow explained. The current problem is that we can't invite any powerful spectators. After I defeat Ling Yun, the Divine King of Azura, and the others might not care about their reputation, and make things difficult for us. They might not even hand over Auntie Fei. Your worries aren't unfounded. Long Tianqing nodded. In order to ensure that nothing goes wrong, I'll invite a few people of status to oversee the situation. Take care of yourself for the next few days. Thank you, Senior Tianqing. Night Sorrow knew that Long Tianqing was an important member of the dragons and had considerable influence in the divine world. Jinya and Long Tianqing left one after the other, and the day of the duel drew closer and closer. With 3 days left, Night Sorrow stopped cultivating and accompanied his wives in Vermilion Bird Pavilion to chat and drink. Sikong Chuyu and the others were very familiar with Night Sorrow's strength, so they were very confident and didn't worry about him at all. However, when it came to Wu Lingfei, they were a little melancholic. On the day of the duel, Lapis Lazuli appeared in Vermilion Bird Pavilion. When she saw Night Sorrow, she smiled and said, I wonder if you're ready? This kind of thing is decided by strength. There's nothing to prepare. Lead the way. Night Sorrow replied. He didn't even know where the location of the duel was. Hearing this, Liuli smiled. The duel will be held at the largest gambling arena in Lingyun City. It's usually used for settling disputes. Does this mean that there will be a lot of spectators? Night Sorrow asked. If there were a lot of spectators, the chances of Lingyun tampering with the duel would be lower. There will be a lot of spectators, and the dealer will even open bets for your duel, Liuli explained on the way to the gambling arena. It seems like Lingyun doesn't just want to defeat me. He also wants to use this matter to make money, Night Sorrow said nonchalantly. At this time, Yang Lei, who was in the spatial artifact, suddenly said unhappily, Little 13, stay away from that vixen. I'm annoyed just looking at her. Okay. Ninth senior sister. Night Sorrow quickly replied and distanced himself from Liuli. When they arrived, Ling Yun's figure was already in the gambling arena. Where is Auntie Fei? Chapter 27:17. It doesn't matter where Wu Lingfei is. What's important is that you will definitely die today. There is no need to know this. Ling Yun, who was controlled by Mu Tianlai, said coldly. He had set up the bets very unbalanced. Those who bet on Night Sorrow winning would get a payout of 10. Those who bet on him would only get a payout of 2. The goal was to let most people bet on Night Sorrow winning. Since Senior Tianqing has already agreed with you on the terms of the bet, I hope you can follow the agreement and bring Aunt Fei here. Night Sorrow's expression had already turned ugly. He had not been so angry in a long time. Long Tianqing had already said it clearly. She had agreed with the other party that as long as Night Sorrow could defeat Ling Yun in the duel, he could take Wu Lingfei away. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Ling Yun, who was controlled by Mu Tianlai, laughed and said, If I lose, the bet is to release Aunt Fei. What if you lose? You have not said a word about the bet you will pay if you lose. Why should I pay anything? Long Tianqing had gone to invite her, and had not returned yet. Mu Tianlai shamelessly denied it. You want me to pay the bet? Very well. If you win, I will give you a king-grade artifact, in addition to a king-grade divine pulse. Night Sorrow thought for a moment and said, this kind of bet was simply a sky-high price for a divine lord. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Many of the audience exclaimed. A king-grade artifact was fine, but a king-grade divine pulse was something that even the divine king could not obtain. I didn't expect you to be a rich man. Hehe, the bet is good. Ling Yun, who was controlled by Mu Tianlai, did not react when he heard the king-grade artifact. But when he heard the king-grade divine pulse, his eyes lit up. However, after pondering for a moment, he smiled and said, "It is good stuff. But bartering is like exchanging people. If you want to win a peerless beauty, the bet naturally needs to be a peerless beauty. It is not enough for you to just pay the price. I heard that you attended a banquet at Vermilion Bird Restaurant a few days ago, and were surrounded by many beauties. In addition to the resources, if you add 2 or more of them as the bet, I will agree to your request." Ling Yun, you're courting death. Stop dreaming. There's no way I'm going to bet that much. Yi Shang's expression was gloomy as he coldly replied. Although he was confident that he would win, he couldn't use his wife as a wager. Husband, bet with him, I believe you. At this time, Datira walked out from inside the vast heaven pagoda right away. Seeing the cold and elegant woman appear, the crowd immediately whistled. In an instant, the audience went crazy. After that, Xueshi also walked out and said, "Husband, you have absolute confidence in winning. Let's bet with him." "No. This is an insult to you," Night Sorrow scolded. "Hurry up and go back." "Husband. As long as we can save Auntie Fei, what is this bit of humiliation to us?" Xueshi had a determined look on her face as she said, "Besides, you're confident that you'll win. We're just watching from the outside. What's wrong with that?" "Haha, good. Both beauties were peerless. I like it." The Lingyun controlled by Mu Tianlai laughed in a very sharp and ear-piercing voice. "This divine king likes it too. It's just that this Night Sorrow is very difficult to deal with. You have to be careful." Right at this time, a cold voice came over. It was actually the Azura Divine King who arrived. He had encountered Night Sorrow before, and was clear that Night Sorrow had many tricks up his sleeve. He was very difficult to deal with. I'll be careful." The Lingyun controlled by Mu Tianlai laughed out confidently. His main body strength was even above the Azura Divine King's. Combat experience, movement technique, ultimate arts, etc., were all very strong. It was just that Lingyun's body could not be fully unleashed. Otherwise, he would be the genuine Divine King. "Husband, just agree to him. We can't let Auntie Fei suffer anymore." Night Sorrow kept not opening his mouth to agree to the bet. Sikong Chiyu, who was originally inside the vast heaven pagoda, also stood up and said, "I also agree to be the wager. I'll wager too." Following that, Lin Piaomiao also stood up. For people came out one after another. Yang Lei, Aoi, and Jingyan also stood up, not to be outdone. Night Sorrow's 7 wives all stood up. The audience present went even crazier and whistled. The Lingyun controlled by Mu Tianlai mocked. "Night Sorrow, you can't be worse than a woman, right? They don't even care. What are you afraid of?" Night Sorrow agreed to him. "I won't let him refuse to admit defeat." Night Sorrow still did not answer. At this time, Long Tianqing's voice suddenly sounded. Following that, she and another person appeared in the gambling arena. "This is Long Wushu." Seeing Long Tianqing, Mu Tianlai was still very calm. But seeing the other person, his face instantly turned ugly. The person who appeared was actually one of the 2 experts of the dragons, Long Wushu. Although the strength of the dragons was not as strong as the 7 main regions, no one dared to provoke them. After all, they had a very good relationship with the heavenly Buddha ruler. "Kid, bet with him. I believe that you can win. I also believe that even if the ruler of all heaven is here, he won't dare to go back on his word." After Long Wushu appeared, he looked at Night Sorrow and said, "It's been hard on you guys." Night Sorrow looked at his wives and said coldly, "All right, I'll bet." "Hee, wouldn't it have been better if you were so straightforward earlier?" At this time, another person appeared in the gambling arena. It was none other than Mu Tianlia's original body. Even in the ruler of all heaven's region, not many people knew that he was the military advisor of the ruler of all heaven. However, the Divine King of Azura knew. He immediately sent a voice transmission humbly. Military advisor is also here. Please take a seat. All right. Mu Tianlai replied and sat beside the divine king of Azura. This new divine king of all heaven is very strong, but you don't have to worry. Today, even if the ruler of all heaven comes, I will protect you and fight without worry. Although he had come alone, Long Wuxiu, who had transmitted his voice to Yishang, was filled with confidence. Senior, thank you for taking care of me. There shouldn't be anyone in the Divine Lord realm who is a match for me. Yishang immediately replied with a voice transmission. His tone was also filled with confidence. Hee kid, you are a little arrogant. However, I like it. Long Wuxiu replied with a smile. After this matter is settled, Knight Sorrow will thank you properly. Yishang used telepathy to reply to Long Wuxiu. Then he looked at Ling Yun, who was being controlled by Mu Tianlai, and said, There are already 7 beauties standing in front of you. Bring my Aunt Fei out. All right. Catching 7 with 1 is not a loss at all. Ling Yun, who was controlled by Mu Tianlai, laughed as he released Wu Lingfei from his spatial device. Wu Lingfei's complexion was not bad. She should have recovered from her injuries long ago. Furthermore, her aura was close to that of a divine lord. Evidently, she hadn't stopped cultivating. Chapter 27:18. The moment she was released from the spatial artifact, Wu Lingfei's eyes were filled with confusion and bewilderment. When she saw Knight Sorrow and his wives, Wu Lingfei's eyes immediately moistened. She said softly, Knight Sorrow, you're here. Yes. Aunt Fei, I'm here. I'll bring you home today. Knight Sorrow's nose was a little sour. Wu Lingfei used to have an all-powerful heroic spirit. But now, it was completely different. Good. Aunt Fei is waiting for you. Although there were tears in Wu Lingfei's eyes, the corners of her mouth curled up into a smile. Knight Sorrow's wives all bowed to her. Sikong Chiyu said with tears in her eyes, Aunt Fei, it's been hard on you. If you hadn't stopped him at that time, Knight Sorrow would have been killed. You are the benefactor of the entire Knight Sorrow family. Today, we'll bring you home. Aunt Fei will bring you home. Knight Sorrow's wives also bowed to Wu Lingfei. Get up. We're family, no need to be so polite. Wu Lingfei smiled and looked at Knight Sorrow's wives. After replying, her gaze locked onto Jing Yun's face. Another newcomer joined. Aunt Fei, I'm called Jing Yun. I'm Jing Yun. Yishang met me in the God realm. I shouldn't have done that with Yishang when Auntie Fei was trapped. Jing Yun immediately replied with a red face. Jing Yun, you don't have to be like this. Wu Lingfei smiled and said, Aunt Fei being trapped is also a kind of experience. There's nothing to hide. Yes. Jing Yun knows. Jing Yun replied. She felt that Wu Lingfei's words were like a spring breeze. What a touching scene of family meeting. Seeing Wu Lingfei and Knight Sorrow's wives exchange greetings, Mu Tianlai controlled Ling Yun to smile. He looked at Knight Sorrow and said, 1 for 7 and it's an empty deal. This deal is not a loss. It's really not a loss. Ha ha ha. Since you don't think it's a loss, let's begin. Knight Sorrow looked at his opponent with a solemn expression and said, This is a bet between us, and also a battle to the death. Good. That's exactly what I want. Mu Tianlai smiled confidently and said, The reason why I haven't made a move yet is because I'm waiting for an important person. Someone important? Are you talking about the Lord of all heaven? Knight Sorrow immediately asked. In the All Heaven Sovereign's territory, the most important person was most likely the All Heaven Sovereign, who had a terrible character. You're right. Mu Tianlai, who was controlling the doppelganger, laughed coldly and said, No matter what happens today, you will not walk out of this gambling arena alive. Hehe, Hegemon Tianai once said that if a Hegemon were to attack me, he wouldn't just stand by and watch. I don't believe All Heaven would dare to attack me. Knight Sorrow said non-committally. Given All Heaven's temperament, he definitely wouldn't have the courage to offend Hegemon Tianai. There are thousands of ways to deal with you. Are you so naive as to think that today's battle will be fair? Mu Tianlai smiled and said, There's still a while before the Lord of all heaven arrives. If I were you, I would say goodbye to my family. No matter where you choose to fight, you will be the one to die. In the face of absolute strength, schemes and machinations are completely useless. Knight Sorrow said nonchalantly. He had absolute confidence in facing a divine lord. Heh. Let's wait and see then. Mu Tianlai replied confidently as he knelt down in a certain direction. Knight Sorrow saw his actions and knew that the Lord of all heaven had arrived. Knight Sorrow, how dare you come to my all heaven's territory to cause trouble? Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because Divinity is protecting you. After the Lord of all heaven appeared, he immediately sat down in the main seat. He was extremely short, and the people around him were much taller than him. However, they all had respectful expressions on their faces. Only Knight Sorrow, Long Wuxiu, Long Tianqing, and a few others didn't bow down to him. Your subordinate kidnapped my family. I'm here to bring them back. I'm not here to cause trouble. All heaven didn't use his hegemon domain. Knight Sorrow deliberately replied casually. He then looked at Mu Tianlai and said, since he's here, let's begin. All right. Up to you. Mu Tianlai controlled the clone and looked at all heaven. Lord of all heaven, shall I start? The Lord of all heaven snorted, and then looked at Mu Tianlai. He smiled and said, you're really a genius to be able to cultivate this clone technique. Haha, I was just lucky. Mu Tianlai replied. I was focused on the battle. Please forgive me, Lord of all heaven. Go. He wanted to test this clone properly. If there are no side effects, I'm prepared to refine one myself. The Lord of all heaven didn't change his expression, but he was looking forward to Mu Tianlia's performance. He had obtained Mu Tianlia's clone technique in a cave abode. He had taught it to Mu Tianlai to experiment. He felt that as a lord, if he could refine a clone without anyone noticing, he would be able to do whatever he wanted in the realm of gods. After all, there were only 6 lords in the realm of gods. If Luo Tian could refine a doppelganger, it would be very difficult for his identity to be exposed. Forbidden Reincarnation Spear. Knight Sorrow, who didn't know what all heaven was thinking, immediately took out the heavenly reincarnation halberd and attacked Mu Tianlia's clone. The king-grade divine weapon is not bad, and so is the technique. However, you can only use half of it here. Facing Knight Sorrow's forbidden reincarnation spear, Mu Tianlai took out a king-grade spear, placed it in front of his chest, and pushed it out. The spear that was pushed out immediately emitted a deep black glow. After the black glow appeared, it immediately turned into black snakes and devoured the energy and lightning from the heavenly reincarnation halberd. Soon it was a stalemate. The forbidden reincarnation spear from the heavenly reincarnation halberd didn't hit Mu Tianlai before it was completely consumed. This gambling arena is indeed a little strange. However, Ling Yun is indeed very strong. Seeing that the heavenly reincarnation halberd's attack was easily neutralized, Knight Sorrow immediately realized that today's battle would be difficult. He had only used half of his strength in the previous attack. It had been severely suppressed by the arena. However, Ling Yun's technique obviously contained the Divine King's rules. It wasn't something that an ordinary Sir God could control. Have you realized that you're not strong enough? After neutralizing Knight Sorrow's forbidden reincarnation spear, Mu Tianlia's lips curled up. He had used the body of a Sir God, the king-grade divine weapon, and the Divine King's technique in the previous attack. You barely managed to block my probing attack, and you're already proud of yourself? It's too early. Chapter 27:19. In fact, Knight Sorrow had used all his strength in that attack. However, he still had many tricks up his sleeves. The forbidden reincarnation spear could only be considered a probing attack. I can see the whole picture with a single glance. If I were to fight you, I would immediately know that you are not my match. Mu Tianlai laughed coldly. Furthermore, this gambling arena has other means that you are not aware of. What awaits you is the destruction of your spirit. You are the one who should have your soul destroyed. Knight Sorrow, who was holding the Samsara halberd, activated the eye of the sea serpent and observed his surroundings. This was undoubtedly an away game. His opponent could set up traps without any scruples, and he had to jump into them. Otherwise, it would be difficult for him to save Wu Lingfei if the ruler of all heaven intervened. You are not Ling Yin? Night Sorrow, who had activated the eye of the sea serpent, observed the arena but did not find any clues. However, when he observed Ling Yun's body, he realized that his soul was not the same as the Ling Yun he had encountered in the past. Mu Tianlai immediately asked, "What did you say? I don't understand." Mu Tianlai was shocked that his secret had been exposed. However, he still replied calmly, "Have you taken over Ling Yun's body or what?" Night Sorrow, who had temporarily stopped attacking, asked with a frown. He wanted to take revenge on Ling Yun and end what had happened in the past. If Ling Yun had been taken over by someone else, it would be meaningless. Upon hearing Night Sorrow's words, many people started discussing. They did not know that Ling Yun had been taken over by someone else. How can such an avatar be seen through so easily? It seems that I have to consider whether I should cultivate it or not. The ruler of all heaven, who was sitting in the seats, muttered to himself after hearing Night Sorrow's question. "Ha! I know what you are thinking. I was the one who divined that you had ascended to the realm of the gods. Ling Yun is just a pawn of mine. If you want revenge, I will take it." Mu Tianlai did not want to blow up the matter and let everyone know that he had cultivated an avatar. Therefore, he immediately sent a voice transmission to Night Sorrow. As the saying goes, every injustice has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor. Since you're the one who instigated all of this, why don't you take the blame? Then be prepared to be killed. You won't be able to stop me with just this formation. Night Sorrow bellowed and displayed the evolved 33 Heavens combat secret technique. He raised his strength to the peak. He used the Azure Rock soul-rending roar on Mu Tianlai. He knew that his opponent's soul and body were not fused very well. The reason should be that the person who possessed Ling Yun's god's soul wasn't pure enough. It should be an opportunistic existence. The third roar breaks reincarnation. Mu Tianlai, who was controlling Ling Yun's body, felt as if his soul was about to shatter. 50% of it has already been blocked by the gambling arena, so why is it still so terrifying? Could it be that this clone of mine is actually so weak? Mu Tianlia's divine soul was torn apart by the roar. He could barely stand and muttered in confusion. In reality, it wasn't his doppelganger art that had a problem. It was Night Sorrow's Azure Rock soul-rending roar that was too powerful. After realizing that this attack was effective, Night Sorrow didn't hesitate to use the fiery demon subduing roar. This was also a method to attack the god's soul. After using it, Ling Yun, who was controlled by Mu Tianlai, was immediately in an even more pathetic state. "You're forcing my hand." Mu Tianlai had almost no way to resist the continuous attacks on his divine soul. His face instantly turned ferocious. With a roar, he immediately used a special technique of the doppelganger art. That was to transfer the deity ocean of the original body to the clone, allowing the clone to have two deity oceans. Mu Tianlia's original body was a middle-level divine king, but his strength was about the same as an upper-level divine king. He was very powerful. After the deity ocean of the original body was transferred to the clone, the fiery demon subduing roar was no longer effective. That's all you've got. After Mu Tianlia's original body took the initiative, the aura on Ling Yun's body was completely different. He became several times stronger in an instant. Two deity oceans? Isn't that the same as me? Night Sorrow, who was observing Ling Yun with the eye of the sea serpent, immediately noticed. At the same time, he scanned the entire gambling arena and quickly discovered that Mu Tianlai, who was beside Luo Tian, did not have a deity ocean in his body. So you're the person beside Luo Tian. You're a middle-level divine king. However, I'm afraid my current body can't accommodate you. Night Sorrow, who had observed the abnormality, did not hide anything. He used the dragon swimming steps to get close to Ling Yun. There was no doubt that Ling Yun's deity ocean was at the level of a divine king. In this aspect, continuing to attack would not have much effect. In a situation where he did not use the Tianyan Bao, the best choice was to engage in close combat. You're very perceptive. However, you're closer to death now that you've discovered so many secrets. Mu Tianlai continued to transmit his voice to Night Sorrow. His voice had returned to its original state. At the same time, he took out a stack of deity talismans from Ling Yun's spatial artifact. They were all king-level deity talismans. When Night Sorrow wanted to get close to him, Mu Tianlai threw out 12 deity talismans consecutively to seal off all directions. He did not give him any chance at all. Boom, boom, boom. In the process of the explosion of the king-level deity talismans, a thick fog rose from the center of the arena. Under such circumstances, Mu Tianlai took the opportunity to switch positions with his doppelganger without anyone noticing. Good move. In an instant, Yu, a godlord, became a middle-level divine king. Facing Mu Tianlai in front of him, Yishan felt a trace of pressure. Haha. I said that no matter what, you won't be able to escape death today. However, I didn't expect Ling Yun's body to be so weak that he couldn't withstand any of your attacks. Mu Tianlai smiled darkly and sent a message to Yishang. He sneered. You must be tired from your continuous attacks. It's my turn now. As soon as he finished speaking, he took out a pitch-black spear from his spatial artifact. This spear was much stronger than the one Ling Yun took out from his spatial artifact. It had the potential to surpass the king level. Dark Ice Spear. Mu Tianlai, who had completely released his king-level god realm, condensed his divine essence and struck a terrifying blow. With this strike, the originally brightly lit gambling arena immediately darkened. Furthermore, countless snowflakes drifted down from the heavens. The snowflakes looked very beautiful, but they contained a lot of energy. When they got close to Night Sorrow, they immediately exploded. How can Ling Yun explode with such a powerful attack? Outside the arena, Lin Piaomiao stood beside Long Tianqing and said in disbelief. Even though Ling Yun was very strong back then, it was because they were too weak. Now that he exploded with power, he actually had the power of the Divine King. Lin Piaomiao could not understand it at all. This is strange. The person in front of us is the Divine King from head to toe. Chapter 2720. So doppelgangers can be used in such a way. I wonder what kind of clone art Ancestor Phoenix taught me. Night Sorrow, who had used the sea serpent's eye to see that Mu Tianlai had switched places with his clone, felt that the other party's clone technique was quite impressive. At this point, he recalled the cloning technique that the ancestral Phoenix Sovereign had given him. However, that cloning technique required one to be at the Divine King's level to cultivate. Dark Sky Wandering Dragon Art. At the same time, while the spectators were lamenting, Yishan used the Black Heaven Wandering Dragon art that Xiao Tianxian had taught him to avoid the snowflakes that filled the sky and the shockwaves caused by the snowflakes exploding. Night Sorrow dodged the snowflakes as nimbly as a butterfly, but he couldn't avoid the explosion caused by the snowflakes. However, he discovered that the snowflakes didn't hurt him at all. He couldn't help but wonder. What's going on? It's impossible that he's not a threat at all with such a big lineup. Seemingly aware of Night Sorrow's doubts, Mu Tianlai revealed a sinister smile on his face. Seeing this, Night Sorrow immediately used the Divine Essence Dragon Lock spell to bind Mu Tianlai. Then, while facing the snowflakes that filled the sky, he once again threw out the Forbidden Reincarnation Spear. Boom! This time, the Forbidden Reincarnation Spear struck Mu Tianlai, who was temporarily trapped in a sealed space, without any way to dodge. Even if Mu Tianlai was fighting Night Sorrow with the middle-ranked Divine King. However, after being struck by the Forbidden Reincarnation Spear, he was still severely injured. The soft armor on his chest was shattered. Haha. That's right, you are the strongest Divine Lord I've ever met. The injured Mu Tianlai looked a little disheveled, which shocked the audience. However, he laughed out loud. Then Mu Tianlai raised the Dark Ice Spear again, and chanted a mysterious incantation under everyone's surprised gazes. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, the parts of Night Sorrow's body that were affected by the snowflake explosion were all detonated by the spell. However, after these traces exploded, they did not cause any harm to him. But soon, Night Sorrow felt that something was wrong with the new deity sea. It was completely wrapped up by a strange substance, and he couldn't release his soul power at all. Fortunately, I have 2 Divine Sense CS. Otherwise, I won't be able to use the deity ocean. And I won't even be able to retrieve the Tianyun Bao. Even after using the power of virtue, he was unable to purify the divine sea's shackles. Knight Sorrow was surprised by the other party's methods, but he couldn't help but rejoice that he had two divine seas. Mu Tianlai, who was fighting Knight Sorrow with his original body, had a smug look on his face. He began to swallow pills and slowly recover from his injuries. In his opinion, he had complete control of the situation. And Knight Sorrow was already a fish on the chopping board. Seeing Mu Tianlai swallow the elixir to recover, Knight Sorrow did not hesitate to swallow a few recovery elixirs. Although his second spirit sea was sealed, he still had his first spirit sea, so he did not panic at all. Looks like you still don't know what's wrong with you. Seeing Knight Sorrow's nonchalant look, Mu Tianlia's face revealed a mocking smile. I know that I will kill you in an instant. Knight Sorrow replied confidently as he prepared to retrieve the Tianyun Bao. If the other party was Ling Yun, he would have been killed long ago. Now that the other party was a powerful middle-level divine king, he wouldn't hold back anymore. At this moment, the ruler of all heaven, who had been watching the battle, suddenly looked at Long Wushu and said, Are you here today to stand on Knight Sorrow's side? I'm here today to protect him so that he can escape unscathed after winning, Long Wushu replied. Long Wushu replied. After Luo Tian had appeared, this was the first time he had cast his gaze over. Since you're on Knight Sorrow's side, why don't we have a bet? The ruler of all heaven revealed a wretched and provocative smile. Combined with his ugly appearance, it was very infuriating. Oh, how do you want to bet? What do you want to bet? Even though he was facing a sovereign, Long Wushu didn't seem to be afraid at all. He asked with interest. We are both existences that surpass the divine king. Naturally, there's no need to bet on a king-grade item. If we want to bet, let's bet on a king-grade item. What do you think? The ruler of all heaven asked eagerly. You mean that you're betting on your subordinate to win, and I'm betting on Knight Sorrow to win? Long Wushu asked with a smile. He didn't seem to be afraid at all. This person isn't any weaker than the ruler of all heaven at all. Seeing this scene, some of the spectators couldn't help but feel puzzled. Amidst the chatter, all heaven said, You bet on Knight Sorrow and a fist-sized ruler stone. If he wins, I'll give you 5 ruler stones of the same size. What do you think? He was clear about Mu Tianlia's methods and felt that Knight Sorrow would lose without a doubt. So it's a 1-5 ratio. How about this? 1 ruler stone is too stingy. I'll bet 5 ruler stones. If you lose, you'll pay me 25 ruler stones. How about that? Long Wushu countered with a bold question. Okay, dragons are indeed a rich race. I'll accept your bet. All heaven smiled wretchedly. At this moment, Long Wushu took out 5 fist-sized ruler stones and smiled. Here's my bet. Ruler of all heaven, take out your bet too. What's the rush? I'm a ruler of all heaven. How can I lack a few ruler stones? All heaven had ruler stones, but he had only accumulated 6 or 7 over the years. How could he take out 25 ruler stones at once? He didn't even blush as he replied. In reality, he felt that this was a sure-win deal. It didn't matter if he had the capital or not. Long Wushu looked at the ruler of all heaven and said, Since you don't want to take them out, I won't force you. However, you have to swear a heavenly Tao oath. If you don't admit defeat, you'll be punished by the heavenly Tao. Okay. I, all heaven, swear a heavenly Tao oath. If I lose today and can't compensate Long Wushu with 25 ruler stones or other items of the same grade, I'm willing to be punished by the heavenly Tao oath. All heaven didn't hesitate, and immediately swore a heavenly Tao oath. In his opinion, Knight Sorrow had a ruler artifact, but he didn't sense it. This meant that Tianyun Bao was definitely in a spatial artifact. Now, Knight Sorrow's deity ocean was sealed by Mu Tianlai, and couldn't be taken out. Hence, there was no hope of winning. Good. Ruler of all heaven is a straightforward person. Long Wushu smiled and nodded. He muttered, I didn't expect this. I didn't come here in vain. Whether or not we came here in vain, let's wait and see. The ruler of all heaven mocked. He looked at the arena and said, Why aren't you fighting? He realized that Knight Sorrow and Mu Tianlai had stopped, and were standing at the edge of the arena. I'm looking at what bet you and Senior Long have. Chapter 27-21. Bastard. You're courting death. How dare you be so disrespectful to the sovereign? I'll kill you right now. Let's see how arrogant you can be. Seeing that Night Sorrow didn't care about the sovereign of all heaven at all, Mu Tianlai was enraged. Don't think that you're invincible just because you're the divine king and know some tricks. Night Sorrow took out the Tianyun bow and the 3 heavenly cloud arrows. He drew the bow and shot the arrows in 3 directions. Following 3 explosions, some of the important measures set up in the formation were directly shattered by him. The formation that suppressed his strength disappeared, and Night Sorrow felt relaxed. What's going on? You can still use your divine soul power. This seat clearly used some means to seal your divine sea. Seeing that Night Sorrow had taken out the sovereign-grade divine artifact and destroyed some of the tricks in the formation, Mu Tianlai was in disbelief. Luo Tian, who was sitting outside, was also confused. How can he use a spatial artifact? This shouldn't be. Haha, good. The younger generation will surpass us in time. A godlord can use a sovereign-grade divine artifact. I'm so envious. Long Wushu smiled and praised him. Night Sorrow had used a sovereign-grade divine artifact, which made him feel very confident. This was also something that Long Tianqing had explained to him clearly. There are many things that you don't understand. Night Sorrow looked at the confused Mu Tianlai and summoned the 3 heavenly cloud arrows. He drew the bow and shot the arrows. He didn't use his blood to activate the Tianyun bow, but the 3 arrows were still powerful. Although Mu Tianlai was the divine king, he didn't dare to underestimate him. He immediately used his movement technique to dodge. You want to dodge? You can't. Seeing that Mu Tianlai was using a movement technique to dodge the heavenly cloud arrow, Yishang immediately used the divine essence dragon locking array to restrain him. Although Mu Tianlia's reaction wasn't slow, and he quickly destroyed the sealed space created by the formation, he was still hit by the 3 heavenly cloud arrows. After being hit in the chest one after another, he was immediately sent flying and suffered serious injuries. Phew! What kind of method was this? If I'm not mistaken, he's using a Dominator rank artifact. When they saw that Night Sorrow had used a Dominator-grade artifact to send Mu Tianlai flying, some of the spectators exclaimed in surprise. When some people saw the sovereign artifact, they immediately shouted in displeasure. This is cheating. How are we supposed to fight now that a sovereign-rank divine artifact has appeared? Am I cheating? They cheated a lot. Sky Cloud Sun Shooting Art. In the face of the audience's boos, Night Sorrow smiled and shot another arrow at Mu Tianlai. This arrow contained Tianyun Bao's archery skills. Its power was even greater than the previous 3 arrows combined. The All-Heaven Ruler's expression turned ugly when he saw Night Sorrow shoot the arrow. Mu Tianlai, who was standing in the middle of the field, was furious that Night Sorrow had used the Tianyun Bao to break the formation. After thinking for a moment, he took out a dozen king-grade divine talismans. As he dodged, he was prepared to use the divine talismans to break the formation. He didn't want to be trapped in the sealed space again and be bombarded by the sky cloud arrows. However, what Mu Tianlai didn't expect was that Night Sorrow didn't use the divine origin dragon lock formation this time. As for the heavenly cloud arrow that he shot out, it was as if it had grown eyes and turned into a shield. Use the method I prepared for you. Although he has a Dominator-grade artifact, the power he can unleash is only at the Divine King's level. Don't panic. Seeing that Mu Tianlai was clearly panicking in the face of a Dominator-grade artifact, Luo Tian immediately sent him a voice transmission. The stakes were too high this time. Even if he was a sovereign, he couldn't afford to lose. Yes, Lord Sovereign. After receiving Luo Tian's voice transmission, Mu Tianlai calmed down a lot. He immediately took out a strange-looking object from his spatial artifact. It was a chestnut-shaped artifact. Although it was a king-grade artifact, it vaguely contained a trace of a sovereign-grade artifact's aura. After Mu Tianlai took it out, he immediately tossed it into the air. The artifact that was tossed out immediately exploded in the air, forming a huge spiderweb. After this spiderweb formed, It immediately reflected the sky cloud arrows. Luo Tian was right. Night Sorrow's sky cloud arrows weren't as powerful as he had imagined. Haha. So, your strength is only SOSO even after using a Dominator-grade artifact. Mu Tianlia's face lit up when he saw Night Sorrow's sky cloud arrows being reflected by the huge spiderweb. He had originally thought that he wouldn't be able to withstand an attack from a Dominator-grade artifact. It's too early for you to be happy. After witnessing the entire process of the sky cloud arrows being reflected, Night Sorrow reached out and grabbed them. Then he used the sky cloud arrows to cut his fingertips and poured blood onto Tianyun Bao's bow. As Night Sorrow's blood continued to increase, Tianyun Bao, who had drunk the blood, immediately bloomed with a different light. Soon flesh and reverse scales began to grow out. He stroked Tianyun Bao's surface and felt an inexplicable chill. This coldness contained a terrifying killing intent. It's over. I didn't expect that after all this fighting, I still have to rely on Tianyun Bao. After shooting 7 sky cloud arrows in a row, Night Sorrow drew his bow inside slightly. In reality, he hoped that he could defeat Mu Tianlai with his own strength. The power of these 7 arrows. A buzzing sound rang out. Mu Tianlai was immediately stunned by the scene in front of him. This time, after Night Sorrow shot 7 sky cloud arrows in a row, they immediately turned into 7 golden crows in the air. They were very dazzling. After these 7 sky cloud arrows turned into golden crows, they didn't immediately attack. Instead, they circled around the gambling arena. It was as if they were brewing their killing intent. Break. When the killing intent of the 7 golden crows had gathered to an unimaginable level, Yishang immediately controlled 3 of them to attack Mu Tianlia's spider web. The spider web that he had set up was shattered without any suspense. Mu Tianlai, who had lost his protection, immediately paled. He was about to use other means in the gambling arena, but he found that all of them had been neutralized by Night Sorrow's 3 arrows. Damn it! How can he use the deity ocean and see through the means in the gambling arena? The spider web in front of him was shattered. Mu Tianlai panicked again. He could sense that it would be difficult for him to take the arrows in front of him. Just as he was thinking about how to fight, Luo Tian's cold eyes turned cold. Luo Tian, whose brows were completely cold, thought for a moment. Then he poured a large amount of Dominator energy into Mu Tianlia's clone, Lingyun, beside him. At the same time, he said telepathically, "The legendary last move of the clone technique is the power of the original body and the clone. I will continue to pour power into you. Quickly get rid of this ant in front of you. I don't want to lose this battle. If this move doesn't work, use the forbidden move." Yes, Lord Ruler. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.